2020 meeting of the Town of Southampton Planning Board. In accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 2002.1, we'll be proceeding differently from our typical meetings. Until further notice, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference. So we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. We have a full agenda posted on the town's website for today's meeting, and we will follow the agenda as it is published. The town's planning staff, as well as the applicants and their representatives, are participating via Zoom, which is being moderated by Charles Sertain, CTV. He'll be muting and holding speakers in a virtual waiting room until it's their time to give testimony before the board. A reminder that applicants and their agents should state their name and address for the record. As is typical, there are no public comments allowed during the daytime meetings. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website and on the town clerk's meeting portal. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of discussion and vote on the application. Finally, in accordance with the governor's order in this meeting, will be recorded and transcribed at a later date and will be made available to the public. Now, will you all join in for a Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of
the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Phil, can you do a roll call for us?
I can certainly try. Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty.
Present.
Secretary is here and online. Board Member Burke.
Present.
Board Member Zuccarelli.
Present.
Who else do we have?
Robin will be here in about a half hour.
Okay, and Board Member Blaney, I don't see him yet.
No.
So anyway, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Any minutes to approve?
We do. We have the minutes of March 12th, which I think was our last live in town hall meeting.
Yep.
So we're caught up. How about that?
How about that? Any motion to approve?
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Glorian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. I'll entertain a motion to, because our first agenda item is a work session with CVS. So I'll close the afternoon session. A motion for that.
Motion.
Motion by Phil, second by Glorian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. So we are in work session, and that is Claire.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Good.
I'm going to put the information up in a second, but I just want to recap where we've been. It's been a while since we've handled this application. We've been waiting for the applicant to have a revised plan and update their traffic study on this application. This is the CVS proposal to replace the United Artists Theater in Hampton Bays on the corner of Springville Road and Montauk Highway. The last we left it, we deemed the application incomplete pending the traffic information and the updated plan. At that last meeting in December, you had also presented to the applicant an alternative consideration for cross-access to the east of the property. So I'm going to share the screen. Oh, Charles, can you just activate that for me?
Yes, I can.
Share the screen. I'll show you the aerial. I'll show you their latest site plan that they submitted to us, to the planning board, and then the original gateway plan that was presented to the applicant. And it would be productive before they go and amend their traffic study to have your input on the application, on the plan before you go forward.
Who is here for this application, Claire?
Liz Vale, and I believe another gentleman.
If I may, hi, good afternoon, board members. Liz Vale, Farrell Fritz, 50 Station Road, Watermill. I'm here today with Jason McCroot from VHB and Dan Winkleman, our traffic engineer.
Okay. Claire, we're back to you.
Okay, so this is the aerial. So this is the location. This is the latest site plan that they submitted. And you can see this is Hampton Green. So you can see my cursor here, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, this is Hampton Green, and this would be a joint access to take the entrances existing here and the entrance on the Hamlet Green, make it one, create this additional parking, and then have this additional access to the other property that goes all the way through to Good Ground Road extension back here. So that would be an ability to have those two places, those two properties flow together. This is their proposal, the 14,900 and change square feet for the CVS portion, and then the other uses are here. This proposal, different from the existing conditions, you can see the parking's lined up here. They're proposing to have additional open space here, and then of course we're gaining all these parking spaces. Right now there's only like 3 parking pull-up spaces on the Hamlet Green property, so we're gaining all this parking. They would be gaining all that parking. I'm just going to show you the next plan just quick. This is what we had given them. A little bit less parking, though they have this additional parking here, but a lot more open space in this. So, you know, that last plan that they presented, more parking, a little less open space. Obviously, they're keeping this parking adjacent here. So,
on a percentage basis, how much less open space, Claire? Do you have a sense?
I don't, but I can definitely look at that before the next meeting. Again, this is a work session, so questions are good.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry.
the joint the driveway, a two-way driveway, or is it one way in and then out to the rear?
That looks like two-way. Liz, is that correct?
Actually, if you could unmute Jason, he's going to go over the details to the plan with respect to the changes from the last plan that we submitted. That's why he's on.
He can unmute himself.
Jason, can you unmute yourself?
I did. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jason Mickert from VHB. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us this afternoon. After we had the last meeting towards the end of last year with the board, we took the comments that you had, and in particular that Gateway Park plan back, and we went to the property owner, CVS, as well as the adjacent property owner, to try to work with all parties to come up with a plan that would really work for everybody here. So we tried to stick with the plan as closely as possible. So if you look at the Gateway plan in comparison, the only difference is probably about a 4-foot difference. We laid out the parking similar. If you look at this plan, you have parking against the building, then you have double row of parking in the middle, and then parking out towards the road in the main parking area. You also notice that the parking is angled closest to the building, so it would require from either direction, you could only enter those angled parking spaces. If you're heading eastbound, you could enter the spaces against the building. If you're going westbound, the spaces on the other side. So in order to improve the access, we wanted to make that a two-way aisle where you could enter the parking from either direction. And so you can see on our plan here, all the parking is head-in parking, which gives a little bit more flexibility in the parking area for access to get in and out of those spaces. So that did push the parking a little bit further up towards Montauk Highway, but we're talking probably about 4 or 5 feet there. We still are providing about 10,000 square feet of landscape area along Springville and Montauk Highway, so that it's maintaining the intent and the majority of that open space that is shown on the plan that we received as a concept. So we believe that this plan, in working with the 2 property owners and CVS, will provide the best plan for parking access. It will also provide the shared access at the rear, where you have the connection from the rear parking of CVS to the parking of Hamlet Green, with the access and egress out to Good Ground Road. And it would overall be an improvement from a parking and traffic standpoint. So we hope that the board likes the changes that we made, and this is the plan that we would like to move forward with and finalize a traffic study based upon this plan.
Have you included any landscaping in the parking, the major parking area in the front?
We have not provided an updated landscape plan at this time, but there are landscape areas shown at the end cap islands at the ends of the rows of the parking, and then the significant landscaped areas that are shown along the roadways.
But nothing, Claire, what is the calculation?
Yes, it's 25 square feet per,
Every 10 cars, I think?
yes, exactly. So,
Right.
but you know, we could, obviously this is a little bit more of a site plan issue, but you could land bank a little bit of this parking to make some breakups in here. You know, you could provide it, land bank it. And if you ever need it, you know, it's becomes an issue. You could install some or all of it.
Right.
That could be a design, you know, something you do as a design issue going forward.
Yeah, and that's something that the applicant would be willing to consider. You know, we're, in terms of making the parking work, I think we were close to, you know, maximizing the parking with the lot standalone. Now that we have the two lots combined, it might give us a little bit more flexibility, or we could look at adding in some of those land bank parking areas.
Well, this is not a shared parking calculation, is it?
No, they feel that they meet the parking requirement, right, with this project, I think before and with this proposal. Is that correct, Liz?
Yeah. How many spaces are we talking about?
So currently on the CVS site, there's 162 spaces, and there are 82 that would remain on the Hamlet Green site.
And how much of that is in the rear versus the front on the CVS property?
There, I believe there's 102 of the 162 are at the front of the site, and then the remaining 60 are divided amongst, there's 4 along the side, near the loading there on the right side, the east side of the building, and then the remainder is at the rear. So it's about 102 to 60.
Yeah, unfortunately, this schematic is so small. It's really hard. You know, I'm just looking at the parking spaces, but there's so much else going on. This is easier the colored rendering one is much easier to see.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it looks like there's a whole lot less parking in the colored rendering. And maybe that's just an optical illusion because it's not as busy.
Well, I think some of the intent of that, you know, when Kyle did that, was to green up the front of this space, because all you saw was a sea of cars.
Yeah, which is kind of what we see currently.
Yeah, another option is to, because this corner is very close, maybe you could, again, land bank this corner
And landscape it.
to soften that up too. Again, you know, depending on how the numbers come out.
Right, so I'm just a little confused about the parking calculations because you refer to 82 on the green, the adjacent parking area. So are we looking at a shared parking calculation or not?
Not a parking calculation, but there would be obviously cross access and a shared parking agreement, yes. But we're not giving any, but you are not giving any waivers for the project.
Right. So they have to contain their parking on the CVS site.
Right. Oh no, there would be a shared parking agreement. It's just that it would not be it's not required by code. That's what I'm saying. There's no waiver or pursuant.
We meet our parking calculation numbers on our site.
You do.
The neighboring parking to offset our
Okay.
number. Yeah, that's
That answers me.
okay.
Okay. Something. Oh, any other questions? I wanted to bring up another issue.
Go ahead, Claire. We've got we've kind of scheduled about 30 minutes for this work session because we have a pretty full agenda. So
yeah, I just want to talk about the access to the rear. If Liz could talk about that, because I know that was important to the board. If that's, is there going to be an entrance to the rear?
No. Yeah, I think that was decided at the last meeting. Chris Kent went over that the client is not willing to put in a rear entrance for the public. And I think that's what the board was intending to do, that it was always meant for the public. There is going to be a rear door. You could see it. I can't I can't write on your shared document, but it's to the rear of the building. There is an entrance. It says
Here?
no, to the right, all the way to the right, I think.
I'm going to move it like here.
Oh, no, I think you were right.
Oh, I see it. It's right there at that little
Yeah, but it's for,
White
it's for,
block.
I'm sorry, the plan is a little busy, but it says the rear parking is really supposed to be for business owners, employees. So that would be an exit for the employees and, you know, business owner to use, but not, it's not meant for the public. That came out of, I guess, at the last meeting. That was confirmed.
Is that employees for the entire site? For
Yes.
CVS and the other projects as well?
Mhm. Yes.
Well, then you'd have employees for other stores going through CVS to get to their.
No, I think they all
They all have exits. They all
Yeah.
have exits.
It's unclear because if you look at it looks like there's a pass through all the way, but then about a third up from the back where the entrance is, there's a black line or does that mean there's a wall there?
Let me pull it up clearer for me. I'm sorry.
It's on the left side.
You want to share, Liz? You can share if you have the capability. Or you want me to just blow this up? I can blow this up.
Back up
Yeah,
my-
if you can do that a little.
So they
If you can do it a little bit, Claire, it would help.
75% seems to work
Does it? Okay, let me
a
get.
lot better. Like you can see without having it off the screen.
That doesn't work.
You go to the top, the few options, you can go to 300% on it.
Let's see how I do this. Zoom.
Go to the top and you
Zoom two.
options, and that's where you do it.
On the options.
That's where I did it.
Oh,
This is a different PDF document.
I couldn't touch it.
Claire?
Matt?
Yes. If you hover over your screen, towards
Okay.
on the bottom, over the main, so leave that menu, hover over the bottom. It
Okay.
should pop up here.
Oh,
You
yeah.
See that plus?
Yeah.
And you're just going to just
Click
follow
it
your document.
till it goes.
It goes to the right and it goes off the screen.
Yeah,
Disappears.
do it.
Here it is.
Jason, can you expand for the board about the rear entrance?
Here it is.
That's
And
better.
any improvements related to the rear entrance for the board?
Sure. I know what we discussed at the last meeting is that, the rear entrance is a concern from a safety standpoint for CVS and having the pharmacy in the store is not something that they were, willing to look at doing for customers. But the exit for employees was something that, they would be happy to look at the rear of the site. And in addition to that, we did hear the board's concerns of having some kind of a pathway that would be covered from the rear parking area to the front. CVS has agreed to provide an awning along the sidewalk that would be provided on the west side of the building there to have some, additional connectivity from the rear parking area to the front.
But that wouldn't be helpful to a customer, right?
Yeah, they could come from these parking spots and come around and go in the front.
Well, all the rear parking spaces are for employees. Is that correct?
The intent would be limited to employees at the rear and have customers park mainly at the front.
Right, but customers could conceivably come in the back and park
Correct.
and may do that. So you're saying that you've provided a designated walkway for them to then go under a canopy and come in the front of the store.
That's correct. There would be a covered walkway awning extending over that sidewalk on the west side of the building. And then there currently is the existing canopy at the front of the building as well.
So when you say for safety, you're really saying security. Why you don't want to have a rear entrance or exit.
Correct. That's correct.
It's for security.
Where on the plan, Jason, is the actual exit in the back, just so the board can see it?
It's in the southwest corner, a little bit up towards the existing building.
Right.
On this side?
Yep, right.
Here?
That entrance, that exit right there. That's
Okay.
that would be the egress for employees.
So that opens up into the sidewalk that
Correct.
we're talking about.
It looked like there's, what is all that other stuff from the exit to where the parking is? Those patched areas.
These,
Yeah,
the loading area.
so they have to go completely around to get to the parking?
What's the loading door? Isn't that a door to the back? It says loading door.
Correct. Yes, that's the loading door adjacent to the loading space to allow access, a roll-up door into the building.
Like a garage door?
Is it a garage door or a conventional door?
It's a roll-up door.
Okay.
That's a garage door.
So your truck deliveries are only going to come in and sit on this asphalt concrete pad? The large trucks, delivery
the truck
trucks?
will unload onto the concrete pad.
Well, where does the truck go?
It'll be adjacent to the pad in that area. And then any truck, we have the refuse areas on the southeast corner of the building, which is being built into the building, so you won't see any dumpster enclosure outside the building for CVS. It's going to be recessed into the building, and that's where you would have a waste truck come and pick up the refuse.
That's where you'd have on the eastern side proposed dumpster enclosure with
Like
two.
that little, that white rectangle in the
Correct.
corner?
Yeah.
That's correct.
The other dumpster is for the other tenants?
Correct. And we heard the board's request of consolidating all the existing enclosures that are on the site, and having one on the east side of the site, one on the west side. So that's what we've done. We have one that's tucked into the corner of the building to hide it away over on the east side. And you have the access to the rear at that area. And then there's one on the west side, adjacent to the rear of the building on the west side of the site.
So again, for employees to exit the building, they're going to come out that door and they're going to have to go around the dumpsters and around the loading dock and the trucks to get to their parking space. Is that correct?
Yeah, not the dumpsters, those are out of the way, but they will have the sidewalk. There's a dedicated sidewalk which does go around the loading area that's there.
It's a very, well, there was no way you can consolidate that, you can consolidate those dumpsters.
We've consolidated from what was on the site previously. So before there was existing, I think there's about 4 dumpster locations that are on the site. So we're going to take that and reduce it down to 2, plus the one which will be inside the CVS.
Can you explain how a truck is going to come and empty the dumpster on the east side? The proposed dumpster enclosure with 2 dumpsters on a concrete pad. How is a truck coming in there?
So the truck would come in off of Springville Road, would go along the drive aisle and go left into that opening that we have there and loading area to access the dumpster, would then back out and then exit back on the Springville Road.
And just, we'll have a traffic study that'll be part of it, you know, with the analysis for the access.
The impact on Springville, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because
So
there's always a tremendous line of traffic on Springville.
Mm-hmm.
You can sometimes, if you're coming across the street out of the Matsulan restaurant, you cannot make a left-hand turn because the traffic is all the way lined up back down to the railroad station.
Right.
They have that box, but a lot of times people don't. They don't stay out of that. You know, that crisscross.
Yeah, the box. Yeah, here, the box here. Yeah.
People just.
Yeah, exactly.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just have one question. I hate to throw a monkey wrench into this awning that's going to be over this walkway. Is that going to be a secured area? I'm picturing this. Our original thought about the back of the CVS and the back of this parking lot was because of security and usage. Am I correct? And we were thinking that if we were having the back entrance, back area for parking that was for people who are using the CVS, not workers, giving them the covered walkway. I'm just wondering and just asking, what security issues are we arising with this kind of covered walkway? Are we making a area where loitering or at night might not be that secure? I'm trying to picture this in my mind's eye, what this is going to look like, and whether we're causing more problems by doing it than we're curing by having it.
I mean, I would just say to you guys that this was actually a request of the planning department because I think people use this walkway already. It's not a formalized sidewalk, but there's a path there that people walk down already. And so we're trying to create a safer pathway for people to walk from the back to the front. As far as safety concerns and loitering, that's all speculative situations that we'll have to deal with.
I'm just wondering about, doing the awning, whether that's going to make more problems than it's going to solve.
So you're just saying the walkway's fine, but the awning might be an issue. We could put that as a question mark. I mean, we're not saying that's a site plan issue, whether you have it or not.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
The one last question just to answer. So they have a traffic study. They're going to update it with this plan if you think they're going in the right direction. Submit the traffic study, and I would recommend that we have someone independently review it. In this case, I would recommend the entity that did the Hampton-based study that was very recently done, because they did analysis on traffic with the whole, new plan for Hampton Bays. I think that was MPV.
That makes sense.
So if you're amenable to it, I could, when we close back out and go back to the regular session, we could, if the applicant is agreeable, to get an estimate from them. And if the applicant agrees, they could proceed, with the review once we have the traffic study updated. Is that agreeable?
That makes sense. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Do we have agreement on the adjoining property for this shared parking, shared access?
Liz, do you want to speak to that?
We've definitely, we've reached out to the neighboring property owner. We have spoken to them. I believe that they're willing to do this. They would like to see the documents because we were told that, we definitely have a cross-access requirement, a covenant that was filed years ago. But I believe as part of their site plan review, they would have had a cross-access requirement. It would be helpful if the town could provide that document to us. We were also looking for any sort of updated survey or site plan from them, just so that we could use it as part of our plan, or from the town if you have any in your records as well, so that we could use it to make the cross-access correctly with our surveying and our planning.
Well, we'll look into that. It's, their site plan was a while ago, so I don't have ready access to that. But, we'll definitely look into that.
But did they actually do a future cross-access covenant? That would be really helpful if they did, obviously.
Well, it was pretty long ago. I don't think so.
Well, we'll see. Let's see. But they are willing parties at this time, Liz. Is that correct?
So far.
Because this site plan is predicated on cooperation with the adjoining property.
Yeah, but that
if doesn't happen, then this has to be revised accordingly.
I think Janice is going to have some information about this. It was Kyle who was originally reaching out to the Hamlet Green, but she would have that information. So let me follow up with her and we'll get to Liz on this one. Okay? Is that in agreement? We can close this out and go forward.
So I just wanted to say, I think at the last meeting, my colleague Chris Kent had argued that, perhaps we wouldn't need another outside entity to review our traffic study. But it looks like the board's moving in that direction, correct? I just want to confirm that.
Yes.
But I also would like to confirm that the board likes this cross-access plan, and as far as us updating our plan formally, getting everything to Claire with this plan in mind. I just want to confirm that.
Well, I think, in an ideal world, we wanted rear access and we don't, and you're not forthcoming with that. So
No, but just as far as the traffic and the
I think
park,
we're going to look at interior
Interior.
circulation as well. So how trucks are going to move, how cars are going to get in and out.
right, but we want to update our traffic plan as well for the town. And to do that, I want to do it based on this plan that we've submitted. And I just wanted to confirm that with the board.
How are we treating the front windows? Was there discussion about those front windows?
Yes. Long time ago, they were not going to be covered.
Okay.
At least that's my recollection, Clara.
So you just want to put them on notice that you're still concerned about the front windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No problem. It's
So
in our pre-submission, your pre-submission report, so.
So getting back to this, we have two exits that I see onto Springville.
Correct.
One from the front, which are the customer parking lot. One from the rear, which are the workers and trucks exit. And
Yes.
then a two-way joined entrance and exit to the east.
Correct.
On
I'm on top.
Montauk Highway.
Yeah.
And then this they have this connection which gets them off to Good Ground Road, so.
Yes, in the rear.
In the rear, east.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So we'll
Awesome.
move forward with that then?
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Liz, and your cohort.
Thank you, board members.
So
Thank you,
can I
everybody.
a motion to close out of the work session and get back into the regular session?
Motion,
Motion by
Glorian.
Glorian, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? I think there are 6 of us. I don't see Blaney here. Okay, Robin is here now, so.
You may have heard the phone ring in the background. That was John Blaney calling me. I think he's having trouble getting his
On.
equipment to
Yeah,
function properly.
okay.
And he thought you could help him, Phil.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're really good with the iPads in town hall, so.
And you know how? I know where the Scotch bottle is.
Okay, so number 2 then is Matthew, that's the Puccio Laundromat.
Before
Yes.
you do that, do you want to just do that CVS resolution?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it just does an
It's an
add-on.
add-on.
This would be an agreement, if the applicant is in agreement to hire MPV for the services. As soon as they give us an estimate, I'll put it right back on the planning board, but they can start if the applicant's agreements with the cost.
I think we have to be in session before we take action on that, right?
Are we not back in session?
We are back in session.
We are back. Okay.
Yeah.
You seconded me.
Oh, okay. No, I thought that was to close the meeting.
That was to close the afternoon, the work.
I second
Oh,
it.
are we back inside? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're back in session. So we want to have a motion on that, on the add-on to
Hire MPV
hire MPV for the traffic study for CVS.
for the
So
review
moved.
of the traffic study. Yep.
Motion by Phil, second by
Robin?
Florian, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Thanks so much.
You're welcome, Liz.
Stay
So-
safe.
Stay
So Laundromat. Matthew?
So number 2, we have Puccio Laundromat. I'll just share my screen with you guys. If you're familiar, you guys had a work session on this back in February where Mr. Puccio came in and wanted to know what his starting point would be for this, as there was an existing site plan. This is for an approximately 6,000 square foot laundromat, 65 washing machines, and 46 parking spaces. I have the aerial here. It's in Hampton Bays at 134 East Montauk Highway. And here is his basic site plan, access to the front, and it's proposing cross access to the property to the east. This is just to schedule a pre-submission conference because that's what the board, where he felt he should start. So this would be scheduled for June 25th.
Matt, where are we? What are the buildings next to it? I'm just trying
This
to.
is a medical office. That was approved not too long ago. This is the old Norfolk property.
Isn't that Puccio's building?
Correct. This is Mr. Puccio's building to the east. This is Capital One, Robin.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was, okay, thank you.
Okay.
So what is that existing on it right now?
There's nothing there now.
Nothing. It's blank.
It's just empty.
Looks like sand.
Okay.
So it's complete and we're scheduling.
Yep. He has everything he needs for a pre-submission, and we'll be scheduling for June 25th.
Okay, I have a motion.
to complete.
Motion by, I think I heard Dennis. Second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? 6 in favor, 1 absent. Okay, Anthony, Bola EM Realty.
Yep. So this is a property. It's the, I'm not sure if it's a Hess station anymore or a Speedway, but this is the gas station right across the street from the Bordy Barn in Hampton Bays. We looked at this some time ago. We did a pre-submission conference. There's an existing gas station. It's zoned R20, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming gas station. They had originally submitted an application to expand the gas. There's 4 pumps there. They initially wanted to expand the gas station with 8 pumps, and they proposed a 2,000 square foot convenience store. We did a pre-submission conference report. We identified some issues. They eliminated the 4 proposed pumps, and they're just going to keep the 4 that are there. And they reduced the size of the proposed building from 2,000 to 1,200 square feet. Let me just share my screen.
It's a mobile station now, by the way.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's at the corner of Terrace and the highway there.
There's no convenience store of any kind right now. Is there just a little like kiosk?
That's correct. And I'm sorry, I'm a little sloppy with share screen, but so there's the property with the site plan. You can see the building is in a corner here. The existing pump station's right in the middle. So they submitted the formal application with these changes. I reviewed the application. It's missing some paperwork. We don't have the elevations. We don't have a dumpster location on the site plan. I gave the checklist to the applicant, and I'm recommending that we deem the application incomplete at this time.
Anthony, how does this go in terms of remember we were doing guidelines on this? Does this satisfy the proposed guidelines that we had? Remember?
I got to go back and look. I don't remember because I know this was probably submitted long before we engaged in that. So I don't remember what the maximums were. They've actually already got the zoning board already issued the approval for the convenience store at 1,200 square feet. So I don't know, to be quite honest. But I know it was reduced from the 2,000 they originally proposed.
And they reduced the pump, so it was a substantial reduction.
Yeah, they eliminated the 4 proposed pumps.
Okay.
Can we just put it against the guidelines that we were thinking of, just to see if we're still...
Yeah, off the top of my head, 1,200 was a number for a conforming sites. This is not conforming. So it would be more in line with 600 square feet, the proposal that you had put forth to the town board. So nothing's happened yet with that. Obviously, we're in a situation right now, but it's still, being considered, with the town board. I've not heard anything negative regarding your.
This is larger than what we were.
It would be larger, yeah, but it is in keeping with what a conforming size would be, which is, so it's not outside the realm. So.
And are there homes right behind? So that would be, I guess, south of the building?
There's residential properties, yes, to the south. And, one of the issues was raised that we wanted to maximize the setbacks. Obviously, the building is being located, within that portion of the property. And we did ask for setbacks to be maximized to ensure that we would protect the residences to the south.
It looks like it's not at the moment. Am I reading that plan correctly? It looks like it's almost on the edge of the property.
Let me take a look. Hold on.
So is it a required 50-foot setback from the rear if it's a residence?
Says it's 44 feet setback. Looks like it's 44.
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, 44.
And what was it required? Is that, did they get a variance or is that what's the setback required to be?
I believe they got a variance for it.
Yeah, because it's a 50-foot setback from a residence.
Right.
Yep. Yep. But the application is incomplete at this time.
Okay, good questions. Can I have a motion to deem
Motion
it?
to deem incomplete.
Dennis, second.
Seconds.
Florian, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh,
Abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Matthew, Foster LLC, former Casual Water.
Yes. I'll pull that up for you guys. All right, this is 12 Foster. If the board recalls, back in 2014, they approved a site plan for casual water on this site. I'll show you an aerial just to get everybody a little more familiar with the site. This is on Butter Lane in Bridgehampton. This is Foster Avenue here. This is Butter. The 2004 site plan was for a change in use from a distribution center from a wine and beer distributor to special trade contractor. And this application, which was previously deemed incomplete back in October, is for now a change of use from that original wine and beer distributor to now 2 special trade contractors. I have the site plan here as well. It's not clearly shown on the plan, but if you see here, this is the building. I believe Wayne might be able to speak better to this, but it's just going to be cut down the middle with 1 pool company here and 1 pool company here. We have, like I said, we have the site plan here. What we don't have from the applicant are elevations, and I know it was previously discussed back when Claire was working on this to possibly close this curb cut as it's wide open. And I just wanted to show you guys some pictures of what it looks like now. I think it could benefit from a little cleaning up. This is what how it exists now.
Yeah, we talked about planting some trees, greening it up, closing up.
Absolutely. In terms of completeness, I think we have enough, information to start our review, but I don't think it would be a bad place to, request some elevations from the applicant.
Sure.
Maybe for the public hearing, which we could schedule now if the board is comfortable with. I don't know if you want to speak to this more.
I can speak if you'd like. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So this the board did approve, conditionally
Wayne,
approved.
Could you just identify yourself, Wayne? and
Sure,
your
sure,
address?
sure.
Thanks.
It's Wayne Bruin, O'Shea Marcinsigan and Bruin on behalf of 12 Foster, Ray Wisnowski. Back in 2014, this board did approve, conditionally approve, subject to 2 conditions. One was for a 4-foot high continuous evergreen hedge on the southeast portion of the entrance off of Foster. The other was a submission of a cross access. The use, the board had previously approved for this existing building, the wine and beer distributor. So years later, the wine distributor left and a pool company, two gentlemen came in. It was called Casual Water. And the pool company is still there. It's still 2 gentlemen, but they actually operate separately. So we properly advise them that 2 tenants or 2 enterprises, however they hold them out, is actually 2 uses. They're not splitting the space in the building. They share the space. But it's 2 special trade contractors. They're the pool company. So the site plan that was submitted, unfortunately, the architect who had submitted in the plan that was approved by the planning board moved to Seattle and wasn't available. So we had Squires and Holden go out and do a whole new site plan. Essentially, nothing's changed since the time you approved it, except for plantings were proposed. Mr. Wisnowski had a problem with what was being asked at that time. I think he has since acquiesced to planting the trees on the southeast portion to screen the parking. And he was agreeable, and we had Squires and Holden do the area that would be the cross-access parking that would be shared with the other industrial property to the east. Nothing else was changing on the property. The need for elevations, the building isn't changing, not proposing to change a thing. The other thing, Mr. Wesnowski, when you first pointed this discussion about the curb cut on the west, was a big discussion previously. There are loading docks, as you saw in the picture, on that side, and to utilize those loading docks would be near impossible if you shut off the curb cuts. And so Mr. Wesnowski would have a significant problem with that. So, but I do agree that everything we've submitted is meets your submission requirements, and if you can schedule a public hearing on this, we can move this along.
Matthew?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what Wayne is saying. On the back side of this building, on the east side, there is a large, if you can see my cursor here, there's a large bay here, and there's a large bay here.
The pictures of us are blocking that part of the
I think if you minimize it, can you see it now?
No,
All right, hold on one second.
sorry, but
That's okay.
challenging technology.
So nothing, you're saying nothing is changing, Wayne, on the building?
Nothing is changing on the building, so I don't see any need for elevations, number one. Number two is the issue
We're
that
talking about the rear loading docks.
they're on the west side of the property.
Yeah, so Wayne is talking about, hold on one second. These loading docks here. So there's also large doors on the back where, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how this business is functioning, but when I've been to the site, it seems like a majority of the activity is coming in out of these large doors in the back. I don't know the need for the loading docks in the front, if they need all of them. I'm just saying this is, this is an issue that could come from site plan. And like I said, I think the property, it hasn't been updated since it was, since it was constructed as, I believe it was a potato barn originally, and it could use from, some facade improvements.
Okay. Oh, there we are. Okay. Any other questions? We're going to schedule a public hearing.
Yes, so I have a resolution prepared. I can go back to that.
Yep.
Screen working. Yep. Okay, there we go. So basically, I've summarized what they're trying to do here. It's a type 2 action under SECRA. I feel like what they have now is, is sufficient to, begin a review. The rest can be discussed, through the process. And if the board is comfortable with deeming this complete and scheduling a hearing for June 25th.
Okay. June 25th.
Move.
Motion by Dennis. Second. By
Second.
Thank you.
Phil.
My
All in
screening
favor?
calls. What do you mean?
What? Hello?
Oh,
Okay,
the-
June
the
25th.
commercial.
All in favor? Aye.
Yes,
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1
I'm
absent.
good.
Charles, we can hear you. You okay? Thank you, Wayne. Moving on to number 5, Verizon Wireless. Claire, that is you.
That is me. So this is an application for cell tower on the 1 High Street property. This is a property, I'm going to share my screen. Property in Eastport. This is the resolution to consider. I'll give you the aerial. So this is an existing sand mine. And the proposal is to put a tower 160 feet tall in this southeast corner. I'm going to show you the elevations so you can see the site plan. The site plan detail. This is the access. This is the sand mine, and then they'll go forward to this corner. There's no proposed clearing. This is in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District and the Pine Barrens Compatible Growth District. The tower, this is the tower with exterior antennas on it. You can see it there. And this is the plan for where the visual assessments was shown. And I think I put some information in it. So these are the locations where you can visually see it. This is where the balloon is, so you can't see it at that point. But the next one you can see just barely from that location, photo 3. Again, it's the visual from the crossover on Sunrise Highway. It's beyond Riverhead Road.
That's quite a picture.
Yeah.
Sure,
it's a non-existent balloon. I was looking at the pictures.
You can't see the balloon, but that kind of shows you, just the comparison. And as you can see,
Mr. Blaney has arrived. Sorry.
Thank you.
And so you can see you'd have to stop to focus, to see that there's a cell tower there. You'd be driving either way. You'd be driving very quickly to do that. And then this is the most, again, this is the visibility from Sunrise Highway, and you can see it blends in with the trees pretty well here. So those are the 3 visible spots from off the site, and then on site, you can obviously see it. They'll be on the north side. So the visual impact is minimal with this project.
And clear, we'll get co-location agreements with this application.
Yes, it'll be a requirement. Yep, exactly.
Did they provide a sufficient rationale as to why it's 60 feet above the our wireless master plan height?
Yeah, that's for additional coverage for the area. There's a lack of coverage, so they provided the coverage maps for Verizon in this area, and then we also have the coverage maps for other co-location, and there's a lack of coverage in this area. So the higher the tower, the more coverage, the less towers necessary.
Okay, so you have those combined maps that maybe the planning board could look at one of these days.
Oh, absolutely. It's part of the wireless plan is part of that. So that the coverage and the lack of coverage is part of the master plan. Just so you know, the applicant's representative is here. If you have any question for her, her name is Jess on it, but she can identify herself if you have any specific questions. I have attached the part 2 also. I identified no significant large impacts on this project due to, again, the visual being low impact, and the code is being met with fall zones and separations. So just so you know. Okay.
Claire, I have a question.
Sure.
Is this site near where the current cell tower sticks up above the highway, or is it further west?
It is further west. Are you talking about, there is a cell tower, I pretty much know where they all are. There's the one on 51. Is that the one you're talking about?
Well, you can just, you can see probably the top quarter of it as you go down Sunrise Highway.
Is that are you talking about the one that's approaching where it comes down to County 39?
Yeah.
Okay, so no, this is way to the west.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
There's one up on 51 that is in our jurisdiction also, but it is a distance from this.
And it looks to me from what you showed us on the plan and the aerial that there's absolutely nothing in terms of buildings, housing, anywhere near this site, and so therefore the fall zone doesn't really matter too much. Is that right?
Exactly. So it meets the requirements of the fall zone. Just so I guess the map, this is probably best.
Yeah.
So here it is. This is zoned residential, but it is an unplotted piece of land. So it has 100% fall zone, and they meet the requirements. And I think they actually, you can see the fall zone. So it doesn't touch this property line. So it meets that requirement.
And it wouldn't impact the highway at all.
Correct. Yes. The
Okay.
distance from the highway is significant. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. No, good questions.
Claire, I'd like to see some schematic in the near future about where these cell towers are and the distances between, so that we get some visual sense.
Okay.
They submit that typically.
They actually put it in their actual, sometimes it's on a plan, but most of the time, because the distances are so far, they're putting it as a reference in their special exception petition.
Claire, if you have access to the radio frequency report.
Can you please identify yourself?
I'm sorry. My name is Jessica Zalen. I am an attorney with the Amato Law Group, located at 666 Old Country Road in Garden City, New York, 11530. I am an attorney for the applicant in this matter, New York SMSA Limited Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless. I just wanted to point out that I believe in our radio frequency report, which we submitted with our initial application, we had identified at least the areas in which Verizon Wireless has towers in the vicinity.
Mm-hmm. Do you want me to share that at this time? If the board is satisfied with my word, I mean, they have that. If I can provide that information to them at a later date, it's up to you.
That's fine with me if the board is satisfied.
Right.
With
and perhaps include that language, Claire, in any kind of a
Oh, absolutely. Yep, and I'll reference that report you're referencing, Jess.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so my resolution is to recommend that a negative declaration is issued for the project and schedule a public hearing on the special exception for June 25th.
Motion.
Motion by Phil.
Phil.
Is that second by Robin? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Blaney is here somewhere. Yes. Okay. So it's 7 in favor.
Yeah, there's John Blaney. Hi, John. Wave. There he is.
No sound up. Tell him how to unmute.
Okay. Number 6, Claire, this is you, the Hampton Bays District, the Gabreski.
Yep, I'm going to share my screen with you again. Yeah, they're doing an additional set of buildings. Let me show you the aerial first. So it would be running this way on the back side of the area that they're developing. These 3 buildings are in at the point, and then this is their next set of buildings that they're proposing. There it is. There's the existing building if you're looking east on the east side.
A duplicate architecturally of the others, yeah.
Correct. There you go. Yeah. So, but I'm recommending deeming it incomplete. The town engineer has a number of items that need to be addressed.
Okay.
Going on rental on the other buildings, are they full?
As far as I can see, that they're being occupied. That's what I hear from the applicants.
Good.
Okay, motion to deem this incomplete.
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Moving on to Claire, it's you again, the Sag Harbor Antique Fire Truck Museum in Bridgehampton.
My favorite farm stand.
Yeah.
I know.
Bowski Bar Farm Stand.
Yes.
I agree.
Oh.
So
this
you
is
thought
the one over off Scuttle Hole?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got the Geyer Road connection right here.
Right. The sheep are over to the left
In here. Yeah.
there, the sheep.
Yep. So this you thought as a work session, maybe around the holidays. I think you were amenable to it. They just needed to provide us the site plan, which is right here, all correct, and they already have a floor plan proposed, handicap space. So this is what we needed to start the process. And because it's a special exception, a museum in the residential zone, they require a hearing. So I'm recommending June 25th.
So that's 3 so far on the 25th?
Yeah, and I'm going to have 1 more, I think.
I think it's 4. No?
Is it 4? I think it is 4.
The 4th one.
That's the 4th one.
This is the 4th. So this is a verified museum with fire trucks?
Correct.
But it's really storage is my takeaway from when we had the applicant in. It's not going to be something that has people coming and going to visit the trucks. It's just a place for them to keep a lot of this antique stuff.
Right, but in anticipation, it could be sold to someone else. The use could change to another museum. You just have to provide the number of parking spaces associated with it. So.
But why would we classify it as a museum if it isn't a museum?
Because storage of vehicles is not a permitted use in the residential zoning districts. The museum is one, is a use. And I think they will probably have special events, you know, related to a museum. So once in a while, they will open it to the public. So they can do that.
I want the farm stand.
It's a very tricky spot, traffic-wise.
Mm.
Very
Yeah.
tricky.
It's obviously not high intense traffic use, which is a benefit, obviously. So I'm recommending deeming it complete. It's a type 2 action.
Okay, so deeming it complete, scheduling a June 25th public hearing. I have a motion from
Motion.
Dennis and second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
And then my next one is Homeland Towers Tuckahoe.
Okay, Homeland is Verizon, right?
The applicant's representative is here. I guess you could ask him that question.
Is that
Good afternoon. Yes, Robert Godioso with the law firm of Snyder & Snyder. On behalf of the applicants, it's actually Homeland Towers LLC is the tower developer, and Verizon Wireless is the co-applicant. And Verizon Wireless is the antenna carrier that's on the tower.
Thank you.
So just to recap, we did receive a pre-submission request on this a few months ago. And unfortunately, as you can see, it had a house on it. So the information provided initially didn't have all the complete information. It didn't specify that there was a house on the property and the wetlands line, which has been flagged for access. So now we have the basic information to process this application as a pre-submission. And I'm recommending that they schedule a public hearing. Do you feel like one more application would be inappropriate on the 25th hearing?
No, these are pretty, I mean, there's nothing too involved that I've seen yet.
Okay.
Well, this particular application, how can they have a cell tower with a residence?
It is not permitted
It's
pursuant.
not permitted. So that's what I don't understand.
And
How do we process
wetlands
this?
for the access and their
It's
houses.
it's not permitted by code.
Right.
Have a cell tower,
They would need a variance if they wanted to pursue that.
more than a variance, no? It's a
A
use.
variance from the zoning board of appeals, yeah.
And wetlands right along the access. So
The
I'm
wetlands are only, it's only the wetland buffer in the existing access drive that we're crossing. That's already there.
and the residents.
Correct.
So can someone help me out here?
How do you do?
Pre-submission, whether a variance is necessary is not, it does not really play into whether you can have a pre-submission conference or issue a pre-submission report. I think the applicant is looking for guidance pursuant to the code. You know, he and I spoke about it a little bit, but that's what a pre-submission is for.
But-
to
but-
lay out the
But
issue.
my confusion is that it's just not permitted. So why would we process something?
Well, we could certainly request any necessary relief for the fact of the distance to a residential property.
Well, I don't think you'd have the support of the planning board for something like that.
But I understand. We still would like to process the application.
Kathy, I guess Kathleen is here, right?
Yes, Madam Chair, they're entitled to go through the process,
They have
whether
to-
or not, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
Whether or not you approve the application is obviously, subject to the details.
well, this is pre-submission, so we would generate a report basically, but we wouldn't be able to take their application until they secure the necessary relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Right.
We'd have to deem it incomplete. That would be the juncture where it would come to a halt.
But I think that the applicant should hear that we're not happy with the application, at least from my vote perspective.
Okay.
The ZBA is going to refer this back to our board.
Right.
And I don't know what's secret on this.
Unlisted.
This is unlisted, so they're going to coordinate possibly, and it might generate a positive declaration.
That's possible.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so we're deeming this complete and setting a public hearing, and we're doing it for,
You're
again,
setting a pre-submission conference. You're not deeming it complete. So yeah, setting a pre-submission conference, and I'm suggesting June 25th for, I think it's either the 4th or the 5th, and that would be the end. Okay.
Okay, can I have a vote on that motion?
I'll move it.
Moved
Motion.
by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Thank you. Okay, now we've got 4 extensions. I think we can go through those pretty quickly.
Yep.
Anthony, number 9,
Kamakudiko, yep. Let me just
90 days.
Kamakudiko, we did a subdivision on this property up on North Sea Mecox Road some time ago. They got a conditional final approval for 11 lot subdivision and 25% open space, and then 3 affordable units that are being proposed off-site. They're existing units. We did the approval. We did the most recent extension was done in February, and they were good until April 18th. And they've asked for a 4th 90-day extension for submission of all the final maps. When accounting for the time period that we were closed, which we had to do, their 90-day extension actually will be until September 13th, 2020, just because we got to give them the credit for the time period that we were closed. But I'm recommending approval of the extension until September 13th, 2020.
Do they have final approval, Anthony?
They do.
They do.
Yep.
So this is just for the submission of conditions?
Conditions, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I have a motion on that. 60-90 day. Motion by Robin, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Number 10 is Kirschbaum, Jackie Fenlon, Hamlet of East Quogue, a 1-year extension.
Yes, I'm sharing the screen now. This is the property. They're asking for a 1-year extension. They're proposing a 2-lot subdivision. This is on Sunset Avenue in East Quogue. This is the layout of the pre-application map, the request from the applicant, and the extension of the resolution with tolling would take them until, sorry, I was on the wrong resolution. So with this, it would take them to an extension, let me see here. June 6th, 2021.
Okay, if we can include in these resolutions the date at which we're extending it to, it would be very helpful.
It's right there. It just was hard to read on the second page.
Oh, I'm looking at the agenda. Okay. Yeah.
So it would be, so an extension, it's a 1-year extension plus the tolling would take them until June 6th, 2021.
21.
Yeah.
Okay. A motion?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by?
Second.
Robin?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
And my item is actually next. Oh, sorry.
Yes, Mohawk Halsey.
Yep. So Mohawk Halsey, this is a 90-day extension, and with the tolling, this would take them to October 10th, 2020. I am currently reviewing the map for revisions, and also we're working on receiving the legal documents for this.
Motion for the extension?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by?
Second.
Second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. The last extension is yours, Jackie, 3539 Foster Avenue.
Yeah, so these applicants are actually very close to being finalized, but they do need to come in It's a lot line modification, so they actually, both parties need to come in and sign the legal documents before the maps can be signed. So that was delayed due to the COVID outbreak. So this would be another 90-day extension, but this will be their last because they just need time to come into the office and sign the materials. So this would take them until October 28th, 2020.
October 28th to 2020. Okay, motion for that?
Motion.
Motion by John Zuccarelli, second by Glorian. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Okay, moving on to site plan items, the Long Island Automobile Collection. Claire, that's you. Next.
That is me.
It's number 13, I guess, right?
Yep. And the applicant has several representatives here. Maybe I'll have Joe introduce them once. Maybe we should go through the report first, and then I can speak to that. I just want to bring you to the area. So this is also known as Norsec. This is the Norsec existing sites. You can see that there's the access going between the two properties. And several of the existing buildings are being removed, these 3, to my knowledge, and these 2 remaining. And then they're building a new office building in this location. I'll just show you the site plan real quick and the elevations before I start going through the reports. So that is the site plan that's existing. This is the proposal, the office, redoing this building. You've had a couple we've had work session on this, pre-submission report. They went to the ZBA for the use. In the rear, this is zoned residential. You can see the new line here, the residential line that was moved, the 2 storage buildings in the residential zone. The access onto Sandy Hollow Road, and there will be an access from County Road 39 there. And this is the nice landscape plan, well done landscape plan there. The lighting plan's also attached. Just so you know, we're not at the action deadline. That will be at the next meeting if we resolve all the issues. They still have that standing town engineer issue that we'll go over, but that's just the lighting. There, this is the elevations. The elevations you reviewed a couple times. The ARB reviewed it a couple times, and ultimate review approved it. This side was a modification that the ARB and you had seen at the public hearing, just to show you. And then there's the elevations also.
But didn't the ARB report say that they questioned the fanning out of the building?
There was some questions, but ultimately the board, the majority of the board liked it.
As it is.
As proposed at the modification, correct. So I'll go back to the staff reports. We'll go through the issues. If you have any questions, you can stop me. And then we could obviously have the applicant speak to any questions you might have that might not be included in the report. So the application is to construct a 5,500 square foot office building in the front and the reconstruction of an 8,000 square foot storage building to be used for storage of clean portable toilets on the 7.8 acre parcel, the HB and the R20 zoning district. The improvements are shown on the plans. Excuse me, I'm just gonna go back for a second, make sure I got everything. This at the end just talks about the statutory timelines, which will be part of the resolution. The ZBA granted the variances, and the description is here. Public hearing, February 27th, no public comments at the hearing, nor during the provided 10-day written comment period. It was a type 1 action. The planning board did the negative declaration on May 9th. Town engineer, I won't go through those, but there was a lot of little changes to the project. And when they come back with an approval, I'll insert it here. No comments from the fire district, the fire marshal, typical street number requirements, key box, fire extinguishers, exit signs, and the access drive to be labeled to fire zone, dumpsters, enclosures, and everything else during a formal building plans. The health department had this review related to their application. I understand from the applicant that they have received health department approval since then. CAC has not responded. The ARB, here are the two comments. The first one, that they approved the original application February 4th, and the other comments they had May 5th. So this here at the end, they say there were mostly no issues with the exception of the building flare. So they had some discussion on that, but ultimately the majority of the board members found the building to be acceptable. So traffic access, the project has access to County Road 39 and Sandy Hollow Road. The location of the access to County Road 39 is a traffic safety concern. I'm just wondering if we should limit right turn, right out, turn right in, right out on County Road 39 at the location.
Claire, I've been looking at this, and I think in a perfect world, there should be no exit onto County Road 39, and they should use, because of the way it's laid out, which is quite nice, use Sandy Hollow Road and not back to County Road 39. It's laid out nicely so that they have access to Sandy Hollow in and out.
Is it far enough north that you can make a safe left turn if you wanted to go west?
No, you mean onto County Road 39?
No, from Sandy Hollow.
From Sandy Hollow, I think so.
To make a left turn to then be able to get
back on
County Road 39.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm very familiar with the area. I'm just not sure exactly where.
I believe
it's much further south, Gloria. Oh, it's almost by that monument, the monument place, I think.
Yeah, let me just go to the plan so we can look at it, and maybe we can zoom in on it. Let's see. Shoot. Matt, can I zoom in on the full screen view or no?
Yeah, you have to exit this to zoom in. So if you hit escape and then hover over it again.
Okay.
Good one.
So here it does look like in and out. It looks like a full access.
That's County 39.
That's on 39.
Glorian's questioning, could they make a left-hand turn out of
Sandy Hollow?
Onto Sandy Hollow, and they could.
They can. I'll have the applicant address this too, so we're all comfortable. But that's why the original access was around here. They've moved it up here so you can have a better sight distance both ways to take that left-hand turn out of there.
That potentially says we could eliminate the exit onto County Road 39 if it's easy enough to just go out, make the left, and make the right onto County Road 39.
That is definitely an option. Yeah, I wish we had some comments back from DPW, but I didn't see
It's a very, very tight and problematic location right here.
Do you want the applicant to speak to this?
Well, let us discuss it first. So.
Okay.
So, but that was your first special exception issue on traffic.
Well, the site plan issue. Yeah, there's no special exception on this location. But I'll mention the Sandy Hollow exit. Put some language in there, Florian, for that. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the staff report. So the properties are being coordinated. This isn't between the two properties. It slowly has turned into like this clearing on the property. You can see on the site plan, and where they seem to be like storing other things on the property. And then I guess the chief building inspector regarding outdoor storage had made a previous determination that the storage was allowed. However, the use is being changed on the property. I would have no more outdoor storage than permitted pursuant to the ZBA application. So that would be my recommendation on that.
Can we also make that path, that roadway that's been created more defined? Could we put up some fencing on either side to keep it contained to that and not impact any more of the land?
Like snow fencing, something simple like that?
Something, yeah.
Okay. Okay, that's a good point. The parking calculations and interior circulations are being met. I do make a mention, I'm gonna go back, I'm sorry. Truck maneuvering, there may be some information that I'm missing, but maybe we can have the applicant speak to the truck maneuvering on the property. Okay. Landscaping and screening, I showed you the landscape plan. Do you want to see it one more time? I think they've done a really good job on it, but
it's good.
Yeah, we can look at it later too. As I said, this is going to be decided on next meeting if all goes well. And then they meet the requirements of the master plan, except for the variances, which they've secured from the ZBA. Clearing, I would recommend limiting additional clearing on the property. It is a residential area. There's residential adjacent to the property. If they need to come back for something else, you know, you can look at it, but just limit to what they have in the property now. They had an archaeological review on the property and concluded no further archaeological investigation required. Pavement have to be approved by the town engineer. Lighting, the conformance, I've looked at it. Any non-conforming lighting, of course, would have to be removed, but they're pretty much redoing the 8,000 square foot building, and then the other buildings, if there's any non-conforming lighting, would have to be brought into conformance. Did you want to look at the elevations? I think you saw them at the the public hearing, and I heard the board was generally in favor. Did you want to look at them?
I think we just saw them. The architect submitted those drawings, color drawings. I just had a question. Do we have any appropriate cross-access here?
We probably should do future cross-access.
Yeah.
In the HB zone, right? So we can have that.
Access to the monument.
Yep. So do future cross-access to the monument and then to the east.
Yeah, to the
east,
to the west.
I mentioned that under O, so we're coming up to that. Drainage, of course, town engineer, public utilities, health departments, you know, no public address system, it wouldn't be appropriate. The handicap access, that is number 1 and 2. Energy conservation. They talked about doing some kind of solar, I thought, on this, so we can talk to the board.
I think the building is designed in such a way that it captures.
I think they were doing actually a green roof, but the applicant can.
Green roof, and I think you're right, Jackie, that they designed it in such a way to maximize solar advantage, right, or something to that effect.
Yeah, it's the angle of the windows and the overhangs will allow a lot more sunlight and shading at appropriate times.
Okay. So I'll put more language into that, but we can have the applicant speak to that. And then your cross-access, have the future covenants to the properties. Yep. And then there's no agriculture. The ZBA granted the storage. We can talk about the additional storage from Mike Benacasa's letter. And then signage. The ARB held off on the review of the signage. I'm not quite sure if you want to speak to that before for the applicant, and of course the dumpster will have to be screened. Do you want to have the applicant speak?
Claire, one quick thing. Did I see that there were no town engineer comments when that flashed by?
Oh, I'm sorry. There were numerous. There were about
3 pages of.
What's that?
There were about 35 comments.
Oh,
3 pages, many.
Do you want me to look? I'll show you. But so what we typically do is have the applicant, you know, because I don't speak that language a lot either. I have the applicant work.
Yeah, right there. It says by
out.
memo, and then there are 3 question marks. It looked like there were no comments.
Right. What happens is that, just so you know, these are all the comments from the town engineer prior. I'm going to give it to you right there. See?
Gotcha.
And what I have the applicant do, because they're engineers, and so is the town engineer, is that they come back and any conditions we would insert here. So this is just a future holder for them coming back and saying, yes, we approve this application, but here are 3 conditions. So I insert them here. Okay.
Did they submit signage? I can't remember.
They submitted signage on the elevations. Let me just show you.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit out of character. I didn't, you know, it's hard to see the details on it, especially for you to see the details here, but you can see the sign here. It's the very Norsec.
The Norsec logo.
Sign. Yeah. So.
Just that one sign.
So you could hold off on that, or you could ask for more details, obviously, and look at it more closely.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so we have an applicant here or several?
Hi, this is Joe Lombardi from the Randhir Group.
Just lost our screen.
Why are we seeing Blaney?
Charles. Charles?
Charles? We're viewing John Blaney's screen.
That's because he took over, share my screen.
Yeah, I'll unshare.
Okay.
Let's see. There you go. Right.
Thank you. So who is here now? Randhir Group?
Joe Lombardi from the Randhir Group.
Rob Marcinsic from O'Shea Marcinsic and Bruin.
Okay. The 2 of you, that's it for this?
I think, is Randy here, Joe?
I have not seen him, but I thought he was going to join us.
Supposed to be here as well.
Yeah.
What's his last name?
Croxton.
Croxton.
Yeah,
and also Jonathan Kirby from
He
the
is here.
He is,
He's
okay.
muted.
Kirby is here.
I have a Randy's iPhone. You might as well go ahead.
Yes.
Okay. With respect to the comments from the town engineer, just want to let you know that we have revised our drawings to address the comments. We were waiting until we had some further items that in the staff report so we could kind of take care of everything at once. But we'll get those revised plans over to the town engineer for his review, and we'll move forward with that. Let's see, with respect to the entrance onto North Highway.
You want me to pull up the site plan, Joe?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, yep, the traffic report that we had prepared by Ron Hill recommended only right turns out of the site, and I guess left or right turns going into the site. He didn't really speak to left turns, but if the board wants to limit it to just right in and right out, we can certainly do that. We feel that's important to have an entrance onto County Road 39. So we'll do what the board and what the County Department of Public Works suggests. With respect to the exit off of Sandy Hollow Road, you know, the idea there was, basically if anybody is trying to make a left-hand turn, they'll have to, I don't know that they're going to be able to make a left-hand turn onto Sandy Hollow Road, even though we moved it, the entrance a little bit further north. The DOT wanted it moved even more north. They may have some comments on that, but we were trying to limit the amount of encroachment into the R20 zone. So we tried to strike a median there. But it is possible that there's very heavy traffic on Sandy Hollow Road also. And
well, then a right in and right out on the County Road 39 aspect of it, with, as we've done in some other places, sort of a divided small diamond that would prohibit people from, God forbid, trying to go east out of there.
I don't know how you get east out of that property.
well, basically, you'll have to go around the block. You'll have to take Sandy Hollow Road north and come out on North Sea Road and use the traffic light there to head east.
So yeah, it's a very convoluted way to get east. Because
right turn out on County Road 39. Right turn only. I think Jackie. That's what Jackie was.
That's going west.
That's to go west. Right turn
Right.
out.
I'm saying I'm trying to figure out the logistics of going east, and if you can't make a left out of the County Road 39 exit, and I'm not sure to try to then make a left onto County Road 39. I've never tried doing that. But you have to go Sandy Hollow up to North Sea Road, down North Sea Road. So it's a fairly circuitous.
Probably anyone, Lauren, anyone probably heading east knows enough to probably would want to go down to the light, use Edge of Woods Road to get around the watermill bottleneck anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, the reality of making a left-hand turn on Sandy Hollow, I know from about 4 p.m. in the afternoon, I've seen it many days, most days, it's solid down to the solid line down to the traffic light at West Neck Road.
Mm-hmm.
Bumper to bumper. There's no, unless someone lets you in.
That's why I never drive that way at 4 o'clock.
No, I drive. When I drive down Sandy Hollow and I see the line of traffic all the way
Road instead.
backed up. Yeah.
Typically, County Road 39 would be open. You just take a right and go down and come back east that way by either cutting across to a road and a light or across to a parking lot.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So a right turn out and a right turn in would be the safest.
Yeah. Yes.
And, what we've done in some site plans is that we have, there's a small divider like the gas station in Bridgehampton, where we've indicated that there's an actual small diamond divider so that people know that entranceway and exit is slightly divided. It keeps the cars controlled.
Well, this is not going to be used for traffic back to the storage yard. And I can't imagine there's going to be an awful lot of traffic in and out of this front area.
Exactly.
It's an office building, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So I don't think we're in conflict here. I think what we're saying is that this is the safest way in and the safest way out.
Right.
And those who want to go out onto Sandy Hollow Road and make a right-hand turn to find their way east can do that. So.
Okay. So right in, right out, County Road 39, right in, right out, but of course a left-hand turn from Sandy Hollow Road into the site, right?
Yeah, left
That would
in,
be appropriate, right?
exiting Sandy Hollow, I would say right only.
Yeah, exiting Sandy Hollow. So we could put a sign up, right? That would
Yes.
be appropriate. Okay.
Yep.
Both sites. Okay, good. No, that's good. And then obviously, ultimately, I guess somebody kicked me out.
Are you there? You're there, Claire?
So I'll get it back. Just 1 second. Oh, yeah, I have to disconnect that. Sorry. Let me get back to that.
Well, what else did you have any other points to make, Joe?
It's just going through. There was the point made about maybe putting fencing along the roadway to the north.
Well, that internal road that was
Yes.
created over time. Yeah.
There wouldn't be a problem to
To do that.
more formally define that road.
Good.
But it's important that that road is maintained so that to limit truck traffic onto the site, so that they'll trucks delivering portalabs or returning portalabs will come in through 42 Sandy Hollow Road site and then come in down.
Right.
So
we're saying since the road is there and we're allowing it to formalize it in some better way, so that it's not a field road.
Limiting additional clearing. I think, I don't think that is really an issue if we're going to limit it. Then there was some talk about cross access to the west and east. We have provided cross access to the east. And
What's to the west? Is that a house there?
no, it's actually an auto body place.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. We can certainly, we have some, we have a travel lane for parking along the west side, so we can create another access, towards the back of that lot. That would be okay.
Yeah.
So other than that, did the board have any other questions?
The signage, I guess, right? A little bit about the signage.
Yeah, the signage.
Sorry, go ahead.
The architectural, are you talking about the architectural signage on the building?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually not a solid sign. It's a perforated sign so that it has a very light presence. It's not a solid piece of metal. The whole theme of the building has to do with daylighting. 100% of the building is day lit, and the sign allows light to pass through it. And so it creates a pattern on the floor during the day that's facing south. So it's a very soft, it's a large scale, but it's a very soft presence of that sign.
So there's no illumination, Randy?
Yeah, there is illumination. There's illumination within the approved hours.
So internal?
No, there would be one pin light just the size of the sign that would be on from a elevated position. One of the trees opposite would have one soft pin light on it. And then of course you can actually see through the sign. So if there's light in the building, you can also see through the sign.
So a tree is shining onto the sign.
A tree has a light, a pin light, yes. A framed theatrical light, soft light.
Let me look into that. I don't know if that's permitted, so.
Okay.
Well, I'll give you feedback on that.
Okay.
Okay. And then did you submit the color chips on the sign, Joe? I can't remember.
I don't know that we have.
Okay.
Randy?
We could hold it off. It could be a separate issue, come back to the board as your.
Yeah, Architectural Review Board had said they wanted a separate submission, so.
Okay. Okay. And then of course you're doing a green roof, is that right?
Yes, just as clarification, because there are two things happening there. There's a green roof, which is the bulk of the area. However, directly behind the elevator on the right of this image is the elevator that comes up, and then you step out into a small lobby. And then you step out to the north under a trellis that goes all the way across to the stairway. And that trellis supports solar panels. So that's about 175 square feet of solar panels. However, the majority of solar strategy on this building is the brise-soleil, or the lattice that you see standing in front of the glass. That is giving you an optimal bounce of light up to the sloping ceilings inside the building, which is daylight, and that is tied to the electrical lighting so that it dims the electrical lighting when you have natural light. That's the most efficient use of solar energy, is in a daylighting strategy like that.
Especially since it's an office building, so it's only going to be used during daylight times.
Exactly, mostly, yeah.
I don't recall the solar panels on the lattice. Was that an addition? I mean,
no, that's we've often. I suspect that's why the comment is in there, is because we've always mentioned the possibility of having the solar panels. There was a desire for them. This is going to be a LEED Platinum building. I think it'll be the first one on the East End, so it has ultra high performance, and we're looking at renewable energy. So we're currently doing energy modeling to optimize the energy efficiency, and we're in the process of doing our LEED application. So we've always been a little unclear about how much renewable energy and reduction of stormwater gives us credits versus the solar panels. So we've always held that open as an option because we're trying to get the highest possible sustainability rating in the LEED.
I mean, I'm super excited, but that means you're also doing your sourcing from green vendors, and your waste has to be managed.
Absolutely. Everything is non-mutagenic, non-toxic, clean materials, high filtration, exactly what you would want to have in this horrible condition we see with this pandemic. Very high levels of dilution, very high air quality throughout.
Okay.
Anything else?
I just want to, I think, say something with respect to the outdoor storage area, the zoning board decision, and Ben Casa letter, just to clarify how that all came about. We went to the zoning board of appeals seeking a change of use for the storage buildings on site from one non-conforming use to another. Basically, what we had was a museum use associated with those storage buildings, and we wanted to change that to a portable toilet rental use, which was a permitted use in the HB zone, which comprises the southerly portion of the subject property. We essentially argued that storage of the empty, clean porta pots was better than the storage of old automobiles, old automobile parts and the like, because you'd have automotive fluids and the like that could leak out and seep into the ground, as I think I had mentioned to the board during the hearing. To ensure that this wouldn't be the case with the porta pots and there'd be no effluent that would be leaking out, that's why the zoning board basically conditioned the variance on the storage of the porta pots being in the storage buildings and also being empty and clean. That decision was rendered in June of 2019. There was nothing in the zoning board hearing nor in the decision regarding the use of the disturbed or cleared areas around those storage buildings. Thereafter, I guess, we had a question regarding the use of those areas. And sometime after the zoning board decision, we asked Mike Benincasa to give his opinion with respect to what we could do in those areas. And his letter, which was dated March 10th of 2020, which is basically, again, the zoning board decision was in June of 19. This was March of 20. He stated that those areas could be used for outdoor storage and or the parking of vehicles. We used some aerial photographs, in connection with that request to him, which was submitted also as part of our pre-existing CO application. So while the zoning board decision is very specific with respect to what we could do in the storage buildings, there is nothing in it that is says what we can or cannot do with respect to disturbed areas. And I would submit that's where the Benincasa letter comes in, which was issued after the zoning board decision. Just for the record, even though I don't think we're even proposing any outdoor storage, but just again, to set the record clear with respect to that whole thing.
Okay, so you're not proposing any outdoor storage in these areas?
Is that right, Joe?
No, I don't think so. We're not proposing, especially any areas in the north.
None of this, right? So if we say no storage in the cleared areas, you'd be fine with that, right?
Right. The cleared areas have to do with the areas around the existing buildings.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's improved with an RCA surface. It's that area there. If we are more formally defining the driveway to the north, and we're putting up a fence, then those areas where there was some clearing up in the north would be left alone.
Okay, so that's what we'll say, and then we'll have the definition of this roadway. Okay, that's fine with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, so we don't have any action. If they get their, if the town engineer comes back with a positive, I can prepare a resolution for the next meeting.
Okay, we'll have those plans.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sarah.
Stay safe, everyone.
Surely. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on, Matthew. Number 14, BH680 LLC.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, it's a 2-lot subdivision on the 3-acre parcel. It's currently improved with a single-family residence and accessory structures. It's in the CR80 zoning district, the APOD, the Ag Overlay District at 680 Scuttle Hole Road. This is an existing house here with a pool. I believe this is some kind of sports court over there as well. This is the map that the applicant is proposing, where Lot 1 is going to create a conforming lot, and Lot 2 is a non-conforming lot. They're seeking variances with the provision that they are going to landmark this house, which is landmark eligible, but I'll speak to that in the report, which is here. And if everybody's comfortable and ready, I can start going through it.
Okay.
Okay, as I said, it's a 2 lots. So the house does currently have a CO, and for all the structures here, it's pre-existing CO from '96. They have a compliance for the pool and the attached porch, as well as an addition in 2013. Proposed Lot 1 will contain 87,120 square feet and will front on Scuttle Hole Road. Proposed Lot 2 will be undersized and contain 42,382 square feet, and that'll be on the corner of Scuttle Hole Road and Halsey Cook Lane, otherwise known as Cook Lane. In terms of zoning compliance, this does require relief, as Lot 2 does not meet the area requirements of the CR80 zoning district. I did send you guys an updated draft earlier today. I did reference in the earlier draft that they might have needed setback variances, but because the front yard setback changing for the house, you don't need setback variances as a result of the subdivision. As you may recall, the planning board can't support any applications that create new nonconformities. But what I'm saying here is that the board understands that they're seeking these variances, under the condition that they're going to propose the historic to preserve the house. So I added the language that the board is not, is not against the applicant seeking these variances as will, get the net benefit of this preserved house. I did include section 33167J. It's a little lengthy, but this just goes through the zoning board's process to grant this variance. If it's, in order, it has to be an eligible structure. They have to, the application of the ZB has to be referred to Landmarks and Historic Board. There has to be a public hearing. There'll be a referral made to the planning board. And there's several conditions that they'll have to make, one of which is included that the town board accepts the landmarking of the house. In terms of secret, it's a type 1 action as it's a subdivision located in the agricultural overlay district. The applicant will be required to submit a full EF at the time of the final application.
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
You're saying that if the landmark board does not landmark it, we would be not in favor of.
We can outwardly support, subdivision applications that are creating non-conformities.
Yeah, so it's conditional. If it is landmarked, we'll not oppose it.
Correct.
If it isn't landmarked, we're going to oppose it.
Right. That's why I'm glad you added that language.
Correct. Yeah, I want to see it as supportive as we can, so to speak. Obviously, we'd like to see this house saved. I don't know if everybody had the opportunity to read the report that was written by the Landmarks and Historic Board. It's very thorough. It gives you a good history of the property. But I can keep going.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So in terms of secret determination will be needed to be adopted prior to deeming the final application complete. It conforms with the comprehensive plan related to watermill, a park requirement. Bridgehampton is underserved as this is only creating one new lot. This would best be satisfied by a fee, which is currently $2,500. Public comments, a hearing was held on this on February 27th. It was closed with a 10-day written comment period. Public comments were received at the public hearing and in writing. They had concerns related to the burden on the aquifer created by an additional housing lot that doesn't meet zoning requirements, and the desire for the development rights on the 2-acre parcel, which is lot 1, to be purchased by the Suffolk County or an appropriate body, as it does abut preserved farmland, which is here.
So Matthew, nowhere in the report, and I think you should include it maybe under secret, that it is the New York State Ags and Markets. It falls within the Golden Nematode quarantine area.
I have that in the
where do you have that?
In the referral comments, which I'm getting to. So this is this. I can move it if you like to. I have a referral from Ag and Markets that's included in that section that kind of spells out exactly what they have to do, and it's in the recommendations.
Okay, we'll go to the recommendations. I think you need something up front to support the recommendations.
Yeah, it's yeah. If you let me keep reviewing, it's in there. Okay. So this qualifies for minor review. In terms of referral, fire prevention, just your standard comments. There's no public water in the area. They require street addresses. They have no further requirements at this time. Bridgehampton Fire District, we got no comments from. The town engineer, just stating that the subdivision map has to be compliant in terms of town code. There's no engineering application fee, and they're recommending 3-inch drainage for all future impervious surfaces. Landmarks, they are outlining that they did receive, information from the applicant and an addendum subdivision application stating as a condition of receiving the variances and the approval of the subdivision, the applicant is willing to designate the dwelling on the premises as a town historical landmark. The Landmarks Board did indicate that they're in support of the subdivision with the code relief. The Conservation Board, they did note that it is not in the jurisdiction of wetlands, but it is in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, but they found it to be exempt as it's a historically cleared parcel.
Matthew, can I stop you for a second in terms of process?
Yes.
Going back, what I think you're saying is that they go to ZBA, ZBA gives them the variance, then they go to Landmarks.
I believe it's concurrent.
Okay, because it would seem that without the landmarks,
Yes, it's concurrent.
it would be a conversation.
See, prior to submission of an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals, this is in 33167J. A site plan for the proposed use or uses shall be submitted to Landmarks and Historic District Board, together with the necessary application and documentation required by Landmarks to make findings and recommendations.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome. Back to conservation.
Sorry.
That's okay. So they found it to be exempt from clearing, and they were also, indicating their support with required relief. And they did note there's significant trees on the property that seem to be burdened by some ivy. So the recommendation is just to show those trees on the survey and, look for possible preservation of the trees on Lot 2. Ag Advisory Committee, noted that there's no active farming or operation on the agricultural reserve involved or proposed as part of this application, and provided no additional comment regarding the application. No comments were received from the Town Highway Department. Trails has no trail implications. We did not hear from the Health Department. Ag and Markets gave us substantive comments regarding golden nematode. So when they're at the building stage, there's several requirements that they'll have to meet in terms of these the golden nematode regulations. This is the bacteria that causes potato blight. So you can only move soil to specific sites. It can't go to other farms. Any equipment that's on site has to be washed down. There's permitting through that office. So it's pretty substantial, but it's something that's handled once they're building out the property. In terms of the CAC, we didn't hear anything from Watermill. I have recommendations I can go through. Then I believe Wayne is here, or John from his office, if they have any questions. So if everybody's comfortable, I'll go through the recommendations.
I have one question, Matt. There's no appetite to make Lot 2 more conforming by making it more of an even distribution?
It could go. We could, I guess the applicant for Lot 1 could approach 80,000. So it could be 80,000 on the nose. It's possible.
So what makes it conforming? Is it 45, 60, 40?
No, it would be 80,000 on Lot 2 and 80 on Lot 1.
Oh.
So it's significantly undersized.
Oh. Hmm.
It meets all the requirements for the groundwater management area for Lot 2. I believe it's 1 acre for the health department and has an existing approved sanitary system. So the burden, any new sanitary system would be on a conforming lot, which I think is a benefit. But, that's open for discussion if they want to, maybe just, it's clearly just a line here, but.
Yeah, well, no, I thought it was within, 5,000, 10,000 feet. It's
Well,
way
if you
beyond.
shaved off 17,000 square feet from Lot 1 and gave it to Lot 2.
Yeah, well, it would have to be 7,000 to remain conforming, but then, you're getting kind of, not a well-shaped lot here that's going to jut out. So back to the recommendations.
Okay, sorry, just wanted to.
Okay. Yeah. The recommendation 1, that this pre-application report shall serve as referral comments to the ZBA for any future variance application involving the subdivision. Again, that this requires variances and that the applicant is advised to consult with staff from the building division to confirm the variances needed for this project. The historic house within Lot 2 shall be landmarked per the requirements of Town Code Section 330-167J prior to signature of the final subdivision map. It's a type 1 action as noted before, as it's subdivision situated within the Ag Overlay District. The applicant will be required to submit a full EAF at the time of the final application, and the secret determination will need to be adopted prior to deeming the final application complete. 5, all trees with DBH of 18 inches or greater located within the front yard of Lot 2 shall be shown on the final subdivision map as recommended by the Conservation Board. 6, compliance with the Division of Prevention. 7, compliance with the requirements of the town engineer. Sorry. 8, the final application must include Suffolk County Department of Health Services approval. 9 is Jackie, compliance with any New York State Ag and Markets regulations regarding the golden nematode. And then 10, upon obtaining necessary variances from the Zoning Board of Appeals, the applicant will proceed to final application stage, submit a final application with full EAF, application fee, final mass with Health Department approval, and all requisite materials required for subdivision review. I don't know if Wayne has any questions or anything he'd like to add.
If I may.
Sure.
Okay. First of all,
Wayne, just state your name for the record, please.
Sure. Wayne Bruin, O'Shea, Marcinsick and Bruin, on behalf of the applicant BH 680 LLC. So before my client actually purchased this property, one of the things he wanted to be aware of is the significance, historical significance of the house on the property. And more importantly, he wanted to do a minor addition on the second floor deck on the back of the house and wanted to make sure that there would be no problems with that. So back in October of 2019, we asked the Landmarks Board to review this for two purposes. One is to determine the eligibility of the property for being designated a landmark, and two is whether or not that small addition would in any way impact that eligibility. The Landmarks Board did, as Matt indicated, a very significant report. It was submitted in your package that's dated October 15th, 2019. They stated two things. One is the property is eligible. It's a house that existed since approximately 1911, has some interesting history. It was related to the farm buildings with the farm to the north and the farmhouse that is directly to the north of this as well. And so that report actually qualifies as the report that the zoning board needs. The second thing was we looked at the code, and interestingly in 2014, the town amended the density incentive provisions of the code to allow carriage houses to preserve historic structures and also accompanying that waiving all sorts of dimensional requirements if you do preserve that. So we can build we can build another dwelling on this and preserve this as a carriage house. And we can build a dwelling of whatever a conforming size on the remainder of the property. However, my client's goal is he wants to build that second house, but he wants to be able to sell it. There's no provision other than to create an undersized lot under the density incentive provisions, unless there's affordable housing, which this is not, or a development right is transferred. So it was immediately recognized that there was no provision in the code and we would need a variance. The zoning code has always had a section in the code that allows the zoning board great flexibility when they consider variances where a threatened historic structure is involved. And Matt provided you with those sections. And we made an application to the zoning board already. In fact, they had their hearing last Thursday. I was trying to coordinate, but it's COVID time periods, because if you had considered this in due course, you would have considered this report, and then that would have been submitted to the zoning board. The zoning board adjourned their hearing last week. I'm waiting for your report. And so we reviewed this report. The other thing the zoning board, Matt, and the only thing we need to look at is the zoning board recognizes that because any subdivision other than a conservation opportunities plan in the ag overlay district is a type 1 action, that required the submission of an environmental assessment form, which we prepared and submitted to the zoning board. And they should have already sent a letter to the planning board coordinating as to who wants to be lead agency and to start that seeker process. So one of the things I would think here, I think the staff would assist the zoning board, and I don't know if there's any significance whether the planning board or not, because the end result here, as you know, the code doesn't designate landmarks unless there's the consent of the owner. And so absent the consent of the owner, this property could not reach historic preservation. And we have a willing owner willing to do that in exchange for this, creating this conforming lot and being able to sell that. So The report that we reviewed with Matt is, I believe, accurate. The only thing that we want to suggest is the Conservation Board as to the trees that are in and around the house. I think what we're going to do is try to get a tree expert in there to evaluate, because as Matt and the Conservation Board indicated, several of those trees have vines which may have impacted their health. So before we decide, what needs to be preserved, we might want to do that, because we don't want to find out a year from now that they just die anyway. So we'll do that and provide you that information at the final map stage, but we'll also locate, as suggested here, any of those trees on the survey. So they're the only two things. Otherwise, we will submit this report to the zoning board and continue to present our case there. There was one neighbor who also showed up who lives in the north. His comments were very general and generic and not specific. He would rather see the town or the county come in and preserve the balance of the property. That isn't going to occur. But more importantly, if you look at the aerial photograph, the owner of the Ag Reserve, who is also the owner of the lot to the west, placed a barn immediately to the north. So contiguity of farmland, even though it's only 2 acres, is really not as great as one might want to consider. You can see the driveways and the barn and the activities there. So, but more importantly, this whole minor subdivision that occurred way back when was one of the first properties that were part of the town's and county's farmland preservation program. So a significant portion of what used to be the De Carrillis property here was preserved already from an agricultural standpoint. So they're my only comments. Otherwise, the report is good. And I would think that the only issue is if you want to be the lead agency, it might be something you could suggest one way or another in here, and we can get you the EAF and have you deal with the seeker issue as soon as possible. But I think at the end, the zoning board with staff input would probably come to the same conclusion here, that this will not have a significant impact on the environment.
I agree. Typically, we usually ask for lead agency status when we have identified some possible significant impacts that our board is better equipped to address. But in this case, it looks very administrative, and I
disagree, Dennis. I disagree. I think that we should take lead agency. We've gone this far. We've reviewed it. We're just waiting for a short EAF, and I would say keep it in the planning board. Why give it to the
ZBA? It's in the ZBA right now.
Yeah, but the point is you're adopting your pre-application report today. The zoning board has to take the next action, and they can't take the action without addressing seeker first. So it would then require you to, separate from your normal process, if you're going to accept lead agency status, do seeker on its own, then get back to the zoning board. I think in the end, the zoning board utilizes the same staff as far as review and recommendations. And I think the impacts here are actually the benefits of preserving.
You want to eliminate the back and forth. I get it.
Yeah, I think, Jackie, I would agree with Wayne here that it's, it's going to significantly delay. It's just going to go back and forth where we're likely to come to the same conclusion.
The timing is there.
Yeah,
I'm just confused, Wayne. I just want some clarification. You mentioned something about carriage houses, and I was lost in that explanation.
The density incentive provisions in the code where you can increase density on a property, and there's a number of ways. And one provision allows you to create undersized lots where there's affordable housing or where there's a transfer of development rights. Another density incentive provision allows carriage houses to be placed on a property, a second dwelling, under certain conditions, and including an oversized parcel, which this would be eligible, number one. Number two is that ordinarily would limit the size of the carriage house. But in 2014, the town board amended that section and said where there is a landmark or property that is eligible for landmark, the landowner can apply and get a second dwelling on the property, and all the dimensional requirements or limitations for that second dwelling. The existing historic house becomes the carriage house, and then the other new dwelling becomes the primary. So that's in the code. We could, forego this entire process right now and do that. But my client's goal ultimately is to be able to sell both properties separately. And the only way to do that is with the subdivision. Unfortunately, the density incentive provisions didn't go a step further. And I think it would be a good tool for the town to have if they did consider that and amend that as well. It would enable you to probably preserve a lot more structures.
So you're saying that lot 2 with the historic house becomes the carriage house, lot 1
would be the new dwelling would become the
new
principal.
dwelling.
But it's all one lot.
Yeah, it would end up being one lot, and my client can only sell it with 2 dwellings.
Right.
Would
So
limit
you
it.
want it subdivided. Get it. Okay, are there any other questions?
Yeah, just before we go, do you want me to add language that, we're not requesting lead agency, just so it's clear to the zoning board?
They'll be sending you, if they haven't already, a formal request anyway. And so rather than having to wait another 2 weeks, we're not on their agenda until the end of June or beginning of July, but it would be helpful to know that sooner than later, and you won't have to take another action. That's all.
Okay, why don't you add that then? There's 10.
Oh, yep. That's 10. I can even, Jackie, if you're comfortable, I can even, I can just edit 4 and include it in 4 because that speaks to secret anyway.
That's secret, yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve this?
Move to adopt the report.
Yep, motion by Gloria, second by
Second.
Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. I'm just looking at the board. I think we've lost Blaney.
No, he's over here on the,
He's here.
like, we don't have his picture, but I think he's on. John, are you there?
He's not, I don't see him here.
He's not, neither is his name.
I see his box.
His box
Yeah.
is.
Like Hollywood Squares, you see.
Oh, here.
Hollywood
John, are
Squares
you
is
there?
below Robin.
I'm reluctant to take a vote if I don't know who's there.
Yeah, I don't see a box. I don't see his name.
Over on the right.
I don't think it's audio. That's the problem.
Charles, do you know? Can you unmute him?
I don't know. I'm looking.
I don't think he's there.
I don't think he's muted.
So he's not there.
I don't think he's there.
He should be able to.
He's there, just no video.
And it's up to Kathleen, but I don't think you can confirm his attendance unless you can confirm his attendance. I don't think you can enter him into any official proceeding.
Exactly right. So we have the motion by Gloria and it was seconded by Dennis.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Brian. 15 is Darcy and
Calderale, yep. So this is I'll pull up the aerial. It's a 2-lot, a lot line modification between 2 properties. Let me get my screen. There we go. Oops. So it involves these 2 properties on Newtown Road and the corner of Bittersweet Avenue and in Hampton Bays. It's a simple lot line modification. It's a simple transfer, an equal transfer of 10,711 square feet between each property. So basically this backyard that you see here gets merged with this property. This backyard here gets merged with this property, and there's no change into the lot areas or anything like that. Let me just get a map real quick. Can everybody see that, or?
Mhm.
So you get two L-shaped lots.
That's right. You could sort of see at the end, here's the beginning, the two lots, and then you get two L-shaped lots. Went over everything with Dennis in the building department, and there's no zoning issues, doesn't require any relief. So it's just an equal swap between two properties with no zoning issues. So I basically have a resolution of approval here. Full screen mode. Good. So this is the resolution of approval. On the bottom here, we got some minor comments from the town engineer, just some minor map changes and a covenant for a 3-inch rainfall, which is pretty typical. This is a type 2 action, no further secret review. We didn't get any additional fire requirements from the Office of the Town Fire Prevention, and there were no other referrals that came back. I put a whereas in here. The original action deadline for this, for us to take an action, was May 13th. But just like the applicants, the town planning board gets to toll their action deadlines as well. So we're actually within our deadline now, which is changed until July 13th, 2020. So I wanted to put that in there. The planning board makes the following findings. A public hearing was held on March 12th, 2020, whereby no public comments were received at the hearing or during the written comment period. There are two parcels of land, and there will be 2 parcels when it's done, so there's no additional lots, no change in density. The application complies with the R20 zoning district. No new non-conformities are being created. And this meets the criteria for review as a transfer of land. So the first resolve is that we waive the requirements for further subdivision review. And then down here, these are the conditions of approval. 1, compliance with the requirements of the town engineer. 2, Department of Health Services approval of the lot line modification prior to the signature of the final map. 3, all legal documents which affect the properties and any adjacent properties shall be submitted to the planning board. Submission of 3 draft deeds for this lot line modification. 1 would be a transfer deed, and then the other 2 would be confirmatory deeds for each of the new resulting lots. We're going to require a covenant for no further subdivision without planning board approval, and a 3-inch drainage for all impervious surfaces. Submission of the title certification, submission of a mortgage consent if applicable, town attorney approval of all legal documents, and submission of 10 copies of the transfer map for signature.
Can you go back to the prior page on that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. What are you looking at, Jackie?
We don't ask for any kind of an upgrade in the septic, right?
We don't. That's a requirement of the health department. And I don't know at this point with the health department, they have been typically requiring upgrades of septic systems on lot line modifications before they'll approve it. But that's at the discretion of the health department. No new lots are being created here, so we typically don't ask for the septic system unless the health department requires it.
So we're leaving that up to the health department.
Yeah, it's gonna be their call.
Okay. Okay, so is there a motion to
Approve the lot line change.
move the lot line transfer? Dennis, second by Gloria, all in favor? Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Jackie, you're number 16, Santora, David and Robin Santora. Pre-app report.
You're muted, Jackie.
Yes, so this is item number 16 on the agenda, David and Robin Santora. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the resolution that I'm going through. And So, oops, sorry. This is the aerial. You'll see it's a rectangular lot that has frontage on Homestead Avenue. It is improved with a single family residence and a shed in the back. The shed is supposed to be relocated or taken down to a conforming location. This is the subdivision map. You'll see they are proposing a common driveway over the existing driveway. The driveway is in pretty good shape, but we will ask them to comply with the town engineer comments. And then here is the report. This is a 0.999 acre parcel in the R20 zoning district. This is also in the Suffolk County tax map number 900-359-439.2. It is mostly developed and cleared in the front of the lot. There are some native woodlands in the back of the lot. It is generally flat. Proposed lot 1 is going to be 20,124 square feet. Proposed lot 2 is the flag lot in the back, which has a total of 23,434 square feet, with 19,834 square feet in the bulk of the area. So there was a historic subdivision on this, which was the subdivision of Quogue Homestead Company, which was filed in the Suffolk County Clerk's Office in November of 1919. The subdivision created 19 parcels and also the right-of-way of Homestead Avenue. SECRA, it is a type 2 application, so no further environmental review is required. We did waive the cluster requirement due to the existing developed pattern of the neighborhood, and there's no adjacent open space or any possibility of future adjacent open space as the neighborhood is developed. So we had a finding about that when we deemed it complete, and I referenced it within the standard versus planned residential. So therefore the preferred plan is the 2-lot standard plan. It does meet the qualifications for minor review. In looking at the comprehensive plan for the 1999 comprehensive plan update, there's actually no reference to the Quogue area. So I was looking very closely at the East Quogue area, and basically it says to the west of the center, which, you know, Quogue is just a little bit west of Quogue. It did say to keep the consistent scale and landscaping and architectural treatment with the rural and residential character that prevails there. So there was no other thing. So it would basically just meet the community character for any additional houses. For a park requirement, I am recommending a park fee. There's already 1 house. This meets the qualification for a 2-lot subdivision. So the park fee is a flat fee. So the fee for a park, the park fee would be $2,500 in this case. We had a public hearing on March 12th. There was no public comments, and we did not receive any written comments within the set 10-day written comment period. Department of Fire Prevention had standard comments stating that the area is served by public water and contains a house and will be served by a common driveway. They did ask that street numbers be provided. The West Hampton Beach Fire District also provided that they have no objection to the subdivision, which you'll see on the top of this page. A town engineer did have comments, although some of them are just measurements. We do have a minimum size for a common driveway, so this will be serving 2 lots. So the minimum size of the common driveway improved will be 14 feet wide. So that can be modified at the final application stage and shown on the common driveway plan. Conservation Board provided comments on March 11th, 2020. They stated that this is in a 2-lot subdivision, not within jurisdiction of wetlands, although it is in the high priority water quality improvement zone. So the property, the new house at least, will be required to have a new IA system on site for sanitary system improvement. They also noted that any substantial improvement of the existing house would also require an IA system in the future. They did note that there is native pine and oak forest in the back, but the front has been cleared. So they did recommend a 10-foot buffer. And Trails Advisory Board, they actually did have comments. They just had not gotten them to me. So I did receive them last week, and I apologize. I did not get them into the report, but there was no trail implications for this property. So, and I do apologize, I actually accidentally uploaded the older version of this PDF, but there are some variances that are required. Lot 1 is going to require a lot width variance. It's hard to see on the plan at this scale, but lot 1 is actually going to be 111.8 feet wide, where 120 feet wide is required. So I'm going to insert as number 2 which is actually on my draft that's in the file, that there'll be a lot width variance required. With that also, I had noted that the rear lot is not meeting the bulk area requirement in the back. They have 19,834 square feet on the rear parcel exclusive of the flag. So they are going to, the planning board does not support variances for lot area. We do recommend that because of the flag lot, we have flag lot provisions for design standards, which we can vary, which is within your right, but we do generally require that the bulk of the lot in the rear exclusive of that flag is 20,000 square feet. So there is a little bit of excess on the front lot. You'll see that it's 20,124 square feet. If you add that to the rear lot, you get 19,958 square feet. So I am recommending in my report, and I will add that to this report, is that the rear lot does conform with at least the minimum bulk requirement for 20,000 square feet. So they can get there very closely with just taking the excess from lot one. But I did want to discuss with the planning board and the applicant that the applicant might be able to actually vary the width of the formal flag strip because the driveway is already there. Driveway only needs to be 14 feet wide, but we could essentially, they could add as a variance request an 18-foot wide flag strip, thereby possibly eliminating the need for a variance for the bulk of the rear lot. So if you whittle down the 20-foot just by a little bit, that might just give you just enough for the rear lot to have a conforming lot size, which is beneficial, and then they can conform to all the dimensional regulations of the R20 zoning district. So I will add that in as number 2. Otherwise, the planning board recommends the standard plan and that we waive the cluster. Lot 1 and 2 shall be accessed by a single common driveway, and that shall comply with engineering comments. And it is in the high priority water quality improvement zone. So lot 2 would require the new IA system, as well as any substantial expansion of the dwelling on lot 1 would also require that. We do ask that on the final application, they do show the wooded portions so we can consider if a buffer is necessary or warranted on the rear of lot 2. Also that we ask that the dimensions, this is just like little cleanup items, that dimensions of Homestead Avenue be noted on the final plat, note the water main size, provide street numbers, and if there were any covenants or deed restrictions with the subdivision of Quag Homestead Company, we just ask that they provide them at the final application stage. This was in 1919, so most of the covenants are very minor, if any at all. And we recommend that they move forward with the final application with the lot width variance and any other variances that are necessary if they proceed with the 18-foot wide flag strip. I do believe Heather is here. Heather, did you have any questions or comments?
No, I'm here to answer any questions that the board may have. And I apologize, I don't know why my video is not working.
Okay, we can hear you though.
Okay, great, thank you.
Heather, do you think your applicant would have any problem with whittling down the flag lot so that it would be 18 feet wide? It would actually give, it would lessen the lot width variance, and it would also possibly give you enough wiggle room to make the rear lot conforming.
I think we could consider that. I would just want to talk to the surveyor and have it, but I think it works with the existing location of the existing driveway.
Yes, and even if the flag strip is 18 feet per se, you know, obviously we can come back to that. We will get a ZBA referral on this. Anyways, so we can offer comments at that point, but depending on what the surveyor can do, we can also still retain a common driveway easement of 20 feet. So that way we can still fit any drainage improvements that are necessary for engineering, but essentially the flag strip, the legal frontage would be slightly narrower.
Great, okay.
Okay.
We'll look at that.
Okay.
Are there any questions on the application, on the report? Thank you, Jackie. We have a motion to approve. Motion by Robin, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Good.
So Anthony, it's you,
Yep.
1780
Yep.
Scott Hole Road.
80 Scuttle Hole Road. Let me pull this up. There we go. Whoops. So this is a special exception application for a property on Scuttle Hole Road. You see the triangle piece here. We did a subdivision of this and then this house piece not too long ago. This is office district zoning. And this property is vacant. The applicant submitted a site plan application for a house on this property, which I will pull up. Let's see. So this is a triangle piece, and you can see they're proposing a residence here with access driveway, pretty straightforward. It is a special exception application because it's in the office district, so we had to go through the requirements. Let me just pull up. Just bear with me. Oops. Okay. So basically, it's just a special exception application. They submitted the plan showing the residence. So I have a resolution of approval here. This is the first page. It was a type 2 action. We deemed the application complete on February 13th. We had a hearing on March 12th, and it was closed with the 10-day written comment period. We didn't get any comments. The town engineer did do a quick review of this. The only thing they noted was that there's 3 covenants associated with this property that we required when we did the subdivision: installation of an IA sanitary system, 2-inch drainage for all impervious surfaces, and retention of stormwater and erosion control during and after construction. So those were the 3 conditions, 3 covenants that we've included with our approval. And then they note down here, it says, in conjunction with the building permit application, the applicant will be required to submit a stormwater and driveway access determination to the engineering department. Just so the board knows, that's actually required for all residential properties, all residential development on vacant properties. So we don't actually need to include that as a condition of approval. It's a requirement when you go to get a building permit for a house on a vacant property. So we don't need to include anything there. A single family residence is a special exception in the OD zoning district. The action deadline for a decision was May 13th, but due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the statutory timeframes were told. And just so you know, our action deadline changed to July 13th, so we're within our time again. We reviewed the application, and we find that it meets all the requirements under 33182, as well as the special exception criteria. And basically, we just have a resolution of approval requiring an affidavit, requiring 6 sets of plans for signature, and then compliance with the declaration of covenants and restrictions filed for the property in connection with the Hayward property subdivision. Other than that, there probably wouldn't be anything else unless the board had any questions.
Any questions? And I have a motion to accept the application report.
Motion.
Motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thanks, Anthony.
Thank you.
Claire, Loaves and Fishes, a pre-submission report.
Yep, this is a pre-submission report. You've seen this a couple of times. We've had a work session, I think at least once on this application. And this is the site plan. It will work in conjunction with the existing Bridgehampton Inn, which is located here. It's for a house on this property, and then for a restaurant with 4 apartments on this side, and the additional parking, which is designed in conjunction with the Bridgehampton Inn. So that's the overall site plan. This is the elevation. I'm sorry that they're twisted, but you looked at those before also. the floor plans. And this is the pre-submission conference reports to be reviewed. The applicant's representative is here, Eric Bregman, in case you have any questions. So I'll go through it, and if you have any questions, you can definitely stop me. So this is a site plan special exception to construct a restaurant with 4 affordable apartments in a single family residence with cross access to the east on a 1.2 acre parcel in the HO zoning districts. And I described the Princeton Inn, coordination of parking with the property's plans. Pre-submission conference held on February 27th. No comments were received from the public during the conference, and no comments were received during the 30-day written comment period. It's okay? Any questions? So full site plan special exception. There will have to be a ZBA decision. There is a lot coverage requirements that be met, front yard setbacks, and the rear transition yard. And we'll talk about the parking also. So a full site plan application, details, floor plans, elevations, short EAF. It's an unlisted action. Planning board will be required to make a secret determination prior to deeming complete. So variances requested. I mentioned up above. The front yard one is a 27 feet where 30 feet is required. And there's some encroachments related to that. The side yard is 26 feet where 30 feet is required, and 12 feet where 15 feet is required. There's 2 small entrances that are requiring that. And then the coverage is the difference between it's about 1,000 square feet above, 1,100 square feet above. It's the covered walkways. There's a quick covering the lot coverage. Transition to the north, we talked about this a little bit because there is residential properties to the north. They have been reaching out to that northern property owner with the site plan. So there's some support for this variance to allow the 15 feet setback where 20 feet is required. Pursuant to lot coverage, this is something, I don't know, the applicant has to provide, I don't think it's been provided to date, is that HO and HC require that the lot coverage requirements for impervious surfaces be at 60%. So in this case, they could reduce some of their parking to be permeable instead of impervious and meet that requirement. So that just needs to be shown on the plan. And if they don't, then they need a variance from that too. But we would encourage that to be more permeable material to be used. So the applicant is short 5 parking spaces. There's a couple options to give waivers in this case for the planning board. I'm suggesting to show land bank parking spaces, and of course if they're ever needed in the future to install. So they could show maybe some land bank parking spaces in this location. Obviously they want to create this rock garden and open space, or they could show it like going in this direction, you know, just as a land banked area, which could be easily converted onto the site, you know, opposite of these parking spaces. So between this space and maybe here, you could show some land bank parking spaces if ever needed in the future. I think that would be the easiest rate.
Do they gain anything because of the shared parking?
They do not, because in shared parking, you have to provide the parking requirements for your property. It doesn't give you any leeway. So with that.
You get credit for cross access though, right? They get credit for cross access.
You don't unless it's public, and this is not going to be public.
Oh, okay.
So at this time. But if you said, well, this is property's going to the next property and there's going to be some public portion of it, but I don't think the applicant's willing to do that right now. And you'd have to have a support plan for that at this point. So it's up to you. I think this is the easiest route.
Yes,
if you're just looking for a waiver, you know, 5 parking spaces. So, but we can talk to the applicant about that. I just want to go through the rest of the report. Sorry. And then the 4 apartments are to be affordable. Okay, that's a special exception for the apartments. 4 apartments are to be affordable. The planning board supports the affordable apartments and the number proposed. Referral to be made to the housing director. Appearance of the building is in conformance to the character. You've looked at that before. Full landscaping plan to be submitted. Preserve significant trees to the greatest extent possible. Referrals and public hearing is required, and a ZBA variance. So, any more questions? No.
Do you have an aerial?
I think so. Just one second. Yes.
So the exit onto Butter is pretty much right across the street from the bus depot. Is that right, Claire?
No.
Further north?
Exit onto Butter is up here.
Isn't there one further down?
No, this is all
closed.
Closed. We want, first you want to get it away
Yes.
from the intersection, but it is, I'm not quite sure if it's across from that house, but
Do we have a cross access on the Araman property directly east of that, where we had that?
This
modern?
one?
Yeah.
We do not.
Okay.
Not this one.
So the prospects of picking up Newman Village traffic out to Butter are pretty remote. Is that correct?
Not with this owner of that property. Yeah.
No.
That would really be dumping a lot of traffic onto Butter Lane.
Well, that's okay. That's the whole goal of cross access is to keep traffic off and curb activity off the primary arteryways and channel them to signalized intersections.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like you'd have to go right through someone's residence.
You'd have to go through houses. Yep.
That's what I'm saying. There's no. Has anyone from the department looked at it, Claire? As far as
yes. So when you approved this originally, originally,
right,
you had encouraged that this and this go here. But when there was a lawsuit, Kathleen wasn't handling it. I think Carl Benacasa was when he was the town planning board attorney. What happened is they sued, even though they were giving future cross access to them and they weren't required to do anything. They sued and they sued to stop that from happening. Even though they weren't the parties giving the access. At that time, you were not proposing that this be opened. Not to say that you were prohibiting that from happening, but you hadn't considered that to be, at that point, part of the plan. The plan was to be this, this, and this.
does the Bridgehampton Hamlet study indicate a linkage to Newman? Do we know?
No, not clearly. Not in that one, no.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Then we're good to go.
Claire, what are these 44 feet triangular things? What are those in your report?
I can have Eric speak to that because that's his, and maybe I'll have Eric speak to that. Do you want me to pull up a site plan?
Yes, please.
Eric? Okay,
Yes.
this one.
Good morning, Eric.
Just
Hi.
identify yourself, Eric.
Hi, Eric Bregman at Eric Bregman PLLC for the owners. Applicant. What are you looking at?
I just wanted to know what these 44 square feet triangles are in the.
Oh, I can show you. I have if I know how to do this. How do I get you to look at my computer?
Well, I can stop sharing, first of all.
Okay. And then
at the bottom, you have a share screen.
Hold on a second.
It's green.
Share screen, I see it. Okay. All right, let me get this one up.
Eric,
Here we go.
you don't.
Can you see that now, guys?
Yeah, we see you.
It might take a second.
Okay.
You gotta hit share.
What I thought I did, but maybe I didn't.
Eric, I only need the briefest of explanations. It's
I'm
just
sorry, I didn't hear.
I only am asking for the briefest of explanations.
It's very easy to show if you go back to the site plan, because I can't.
Sure. I'll go back to the site plan. You tell me where to put the counter.
Okay.
Am I close?
Hold on, I have to get back to where I was. I've lost you somehow.
I'm sorry I asked the question.
Sorry,
I withdraw the question.
It was going so smoothly.
I withdraw the question, Eric. Not to worry. Not important.
If you look at the, here we go. Is that it?
I think he's talking about, like, here's the setback, right? So this is the setback being requested. I'm just going to give you an example. This is the side yard setback.
Right.
And it's only like this area. It's not like the entire building being asked for. It's just overhangs like this.
No, if you go right there, that's it, Claire, you got it. You see that red line? Jackie, do you see that red line?
Yeah.
That's the setback line. So it's that little triangle right in there, and one over there.
I get it.
And one over there. So they're tiny.
Over here?
Right all the way down, go down to the front. Yes, right there. And then
Oh,
go
I
to the
see.
left.
Yes,
that
here you
little
go.
triangle,
These are
and
the
go to
triangles.
Yes.
These are what the variances are being asked. So it's decorative. You know, these are decorative design elements that we would normally be very supportive of.
Yes, because the building is great.
Yeah, they did a good job. Anything else? Anything else the board has, or Eric?
No, I'm raring to go.
Great.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to, if you are amenable, I will recommend that you adopt the pre-submission report. Do you want to have it be your ZBA report also? Supporting the variances?
Yes, I mean, at the moment, it doesn't take a position. If you support them, that would be terrific.
Well,
yeah, but you don't have an application in yet, that's why.
That's right, I understand.
Eric, we typically don't support varying the code.
Right.
But what we do is we have not identified any significant planning issues which would preclude the ZBA from moving forward with their relief.
That would be perfect.
Okay. I can say that as a recommendation at the beginning report, and it'll be a combination report, okay?
Great.
So we're taking an action on this report.
Correct. ZBA pre-submission conference report.
It's a ZBA pre-submission conference report?
Yeah, because he's asking for those variances that I have listed.
It was both.
Both the ZBA report, referral, and
ZBA.
Pre-submission conference, yep.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll move to adopt it.
By Dennis,
Second.
motion by Dennis, second by Gloria. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Good to
Thank
see
you very much.
Thank you. Stay well.
You too, guys.
Jackie, you are 19 Aberdare. Are we looking at an old file map here?
Yeah, she's the old file map queen.
Or,
As opposed to a dancing queen.
That's a new title.
Jackie, you're muted.
Sorry, so I'm just sharing the screen here. This is the old file map of Aberdare. Just give me one moment. It seems to be loading. Can you see the resolution?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Great. So this is a no objection resolution. I will scroll down to the aerial so that you guys can take a look at where we are. If you'll recall, we just approved this as a building lot. This is 20 Roosevelt, where we amended the development section and sent the development rights. So a house will be permitted here. When you get to this area, it actually, as you can see here, this is actually more like open water and wetlands, and there's actually wetlands that implicate this lot as well. So this owner is Paul Calamita, and I believe his wife's name is Laura. They are proposing to abandon. They own this house and they own this vacant lot, which could be used as a sending parcel. So they're proposing to abandon the right-of-way of Harrison between those two properties, which I'll show you here. So this is a survey. So they have the authority to abandon to the center line pursuant to their deed. So this half essentially goes to this property and this half would go to this property. They are proposing to abandon it so that they can achieve development rights for this area here. So they're trying to clean that up. This house is already developed. So essentially all of this would essentially be preserved through the lifting of development rights. And then they are trying to achieve a development rights certificate from the town after they abandon this lot and it gets merged in with this lot. I am recommending though, because when we reviewed the Old Farm map recently, the Trails Advisory Board did notice and did ask that this area be provided for a possible future trail link. And I know, Glorian, you're familiar with the trail that it would connect over to like the SYS trails.
Yeah.
Over there. So we are requesting that if this be abandoned, that the portion of the right-of-way of Harrison Avenue be a trail easement. So in case this stays within private property, you know, stays privately held, the Trails Advisory Board and the Trails Committee can essentially blaze the trail through here and then go further to the east to connect with the existing trail system.
Jack, I have a question.
Sure.
Wouldn't they lift the rights off before they abandon it? Because then otherwise you can't really, once it's merged in, how do you lift development rights because one becomes part of the parcel?
Oh no, it'll become, you know, Joe Gaza and everyone does it all the time. They abandon the road first so that they can have higher square footage.
Right.
Yeah. So they're gonna, I keep pointing at the map with my pen, but you can't see that. They're basically taking half of the road and giving it to the parcel that they want to use for development rights.
Yeah, so this is a sending parcel that can't be developed. This is their house. And then this portion of the right-of-way they're abandoning and essentially giving it to the sending parcel so they can basically preserve this entire portion. I'm asking for a trail easement just within the right-of-way so that as you can essentially hike in the future, you'll be able to still utilize that area and get down to Kennedy Drive. But yes, a lot of times they do abandon prior to the lifting so that they gain more square footage.
So the new parcel is going to be kept in single and separate until they plan to merge it into one parcel right away?
They're planning to merge it to this. This will remain intact as it is. So let me show you the aerial. So this is the house. This will remain. And then this portion of Harrison will be merged in with this. The easement will just be along the right of way.
But it'll still be single and separate?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And essentially, yeah, and then so these will essentially be preserved. You know, somebody can utilize those development rights once a certificate is issued or once the property changes hands. So, and it's just important that, you know, our resolution basically says we have no objection subject to a trail easement, which is right here. So we will ask them for that legal document before we sign off on the abandonment being recorded.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, motion to accept the report. Motion by Glorian, second by Dennis.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor and 1 absent.
Thank you.
So 20, Matthew, that's you. It's 171 Edge of Woods.
Yes, on to the re-veges.
It is a category.
Re-veg king.
That's me.
Re-veg king.
So this is 171 Edge of Woods Road.
With vintage vines.
Yes.
She steals that one.
171 Edge of Woods. This is a rather large parcel in North Sea. It's 200,000 square feet. It's significantly overcleared. They've gone beyond their 15% allowable. I will scroll to the next screen to show you. There's two plans you'll see here. I'm actually working with the applicant's representative a lot to get our best plan out of this as possible. It's in the jurisdiction of wetlands. That's where you see my mouse up here. So this is actually in tandem with Marty's office. They're securing permits with them as well to revegetate this area. But what you see here, this is a map of all the trees that are on the property. Originally, the driveway configuration was somewhat different. The applicant wanted to take down more trees, from what, how the board has acted in the past. We don't want to see any additional, removal of any kind of vegetation if the property is already over cleared. So, we've worked substantially to kind of realign this driveway. So now, unfortunately, there is one diseased tree where the crown of the tree is failing. So that'll have to come down. And then one tree right here is going to be transplanted just a little further away. But other than that, we're not losing any trees, and they will be revegetating as per your next plan here, sorry, which is pretty complex. I know someone from the LaGuardia group, I believe Alex Bludorn is here. He can speak to the specific of the plans. It meets all the requirements. As part of this, I believe they'll be doing somewhere like 50,000 square feet of revegetation. But other than the size of the revegetation, everything's appropriate, and it looks good.
And that's what was a wooded parcel.
It's currently improved now. I'll show you.
But it was originally woods, I believe, unless it's on the south side of the house, of the road.
You know what? I didn't include an aerial on this one. Hold on one second. I can grab one for you.
There is an aerial.
There is?
Yeah, there is an aerial.
Okay.
Jackie, I'm sorry, I have to jump off for just a couple of minutes.
Okay, Phil.
My son is getting a scholarship award on another Zoom call.
Oh, how nice. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That's great.
And I'll be back as soon as that. It should take just a few minutes.
Okay. Enjoy.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, if you guys just bear with me for 1 second, I'll pull up an aerial for you so you have a better idea. Okay. There you go. So it's currently improved with the house. As you can see, there's a good amount of tree cover here.
Yeah.
They're doing an addition in this area. They're just lacking a lot of understory. But I don't know if the board has any questions for the applicant, who I believe is present.
Yep.
Do we have a maintenance bond on the re-veg?
We don't do any maintenance bonds on single family.
A loophole.
It's too hard to track. I mean, I don't know that it's ever been done before. And then that would involve the town going on to, a single family residence to have to install trees if they fail to do this.
The reason we took that policy, Jackie, years ago is because, especially in this neighborhood, basically people would just write a check and they'd walk away from their bonds.
Right.
And the town, the purpose of a bond is to ensure performance.
The work gets done. Yeah.
So, yeah, and Matt's right. The realities of entering a private property to undertake landscaping is just not feasible.
But you inspect after it's done.
Correct. It's not the typical conditions that, they have to submit a survey that, demonstrates they're in compliance, and then I go out there and inspect to make sure it's been installed per plan, and they can't get a CO or in the CC until that's done.
Do we know how it got over cleared?
Just over the years, these things sort of happen as people have their properties. They want a little bit more lawn, so they take out trees. They don't realize how stringent maybe the regulations are, but they do all eventually come through. Slowly, but they do come through.
Matt gets them all.
No.
A good share of them.
Whoa.
Okay, you have the, so we need a action on that, right?
Yes.
So do I have a motion on Edge of Woods?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria, second by Zuccarelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent.
Okay.
Okay, 21 is another
Yes.
re-vegged, number 21, Demicki, John Demicki.
Yep, and I'll go to that one. This is at 2138 Scuttle Hole Road in a subdivision. I'll show you guys an aerial. It's 123,000 square foot parcel, just a little over that in R80. They've gone beyond their 25% limit. Just so you know, this is Scuttle Hole Road. You access off of a flag strip. And this is the area that they're proposing to re-veg. And there's also an area shown here to the north that, you know, has been inspected by myself. Jackie's actually been out there as well. It was shown to be overcleared, but it's largely coming back. So the applicant is, you know, requesting in this area just to allow it to revegetate naturally. In the aerial, you can see it a little bit better. There's a lot of tree cover, but it's starting to come back. The actual installation of plants will be in this area here. Other than that, it's 14,000 square foot of revegetation. Looks like I'm losing my connection. Hold on 1 second. Sorry, guys. Bear with me. The technology is not cooperating.
It's been doing pretty good today so far.
I know. It just bumped me off the town server, but you should see. Do you see it now?
We see you.
See you.
Okay, hold on 1 second. I think we should be back.
Yep.
Yes. Good.
Here.
So it's 15,700 square feet of re-veg with 5,400 square feet to revegetate passively. That's the area to the north that I showed you. If nobody has any other issues, just looking for a motion to approve with those typical conditions.
On a motion? Motion by Dennis, second by Zuccarelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. So Jackie, Vintage Vines, 22, lot 30.
You're on mute, Jackie.
She's on mute because the munchkins are noisy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so this is Vintage Vines, lot 30. This is 66 Birchwood Lane. This lot is actually like towards the north as you hook around to a previous subdivision. But this is a property where they are permitted 60% clearing. It is one of the smaller lots. It's 21,500. And of that, 19,000 square feet was cleared or disturbed, which was 88.7%. They have brought it into conformance, and it will now be 59.5% cleared. So they have already done the revegetation. This was a preliminary. This is the aerial. So on this lot, because of the proximity of this rear yard, it did need retaining wall on this side. Which added to some of the disturbance along the edge. You can see that this was left untouched, and then they ended up doing revegetation along this area and then in the front as well. So this was a preliminary survey that I received, and I was able to attach, but on Friday, late on Friday, I did receive the final survey, which shows, and I have in the file, that it will be 59.5%. So I asked them to eliminate the pink areas because these were very narrow strips of blueberries right adjacent to the retaining wall, and also this area just directly on the side of the driveway. And then they've revegetated this with low bush blueberry and native oak trees. So if you don't have any other questions, I do recommend approval, and it has already been revegetated and accidentally given a C of O.
Oops.
There.
Well, I don't think we should approve it then.
I know. Well, I mean, they showed a conforming survey, but unfortunately it was overcleared. So they must have it was recent that they got the C of O, but this will clean it all up once we approve it, and it will be in conformance.
Okay, is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Zuccarelli, second by.
The only thing is, I
Robin, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent.
Well, what I'm saying.
Thank you.
You're again, Jackie, you're number 23, lot 12.
Yep, lot 12. Let me just bring that up for you.
Hang on for a second. There's a whole other voice coming in.
Oh.
Mom.
Linda Lee.
Said mom.
Oh, it's Jackie.
Sorry, it's my mom. Sorry. My child care provider is very loud. No.
We didn't hear the toilet flush.
What loud?
Hi, Jack.
Sorry, guys. All right, sorry. I'm having trouble with my screen. All right, can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so.
Put it to the old one. It's 66. You need to.
Okay.
80.
Yes, let me go down. Okay, so this is 80 Birchwood Lane. This is on the west side of Birchwood Lane. This is more towards the south. This lot, actually, they kept it pretty well. This is 50% lot. This is a larger flag lot. So you'll see this is the aerial. So they did disturb around the house. They were required to disturb more because the requirement for HERS rating. So because of the HERS rating and because of the house design, they actually had to provide solar panels. With the pitch of the roof, they weren't able to. You'll see it has a lot of variations in the roof. They weren't able to provide the solar panels on the roof. So unfortunately, they had to make a solar panel like field right here. Which led to more disturbance to meet that environmental rating. So you'll see here, this is the solar panel area. And then I did a site inspection. They have revegetated all of this with trees. And I have to admit, like I said 2 weeks ago, they did get really nice specimen trees that are about 3-inch caliper, which is nice because we generally recommend at least 2 to 3 inch. So they were more towards the 3-inch, which is good. So I am recommending, and this is 50%, so they will be 46.7% cleared as approved, and they've already revegetated. So I am recommending approval and issuance of a C of O on this.
Okay, motion to approve?
Motion.
By Gloria and second by Dennis, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. Moving on to 24 Poets Corner. Matthew?
Yes, let me just grab that for you guys. All right, this is lot 8 of Poets Corner. It's 50,000 square foot parcel in the R40 zoning district. This is up in Noyak. What's a little bit different about this parcel is there's a 25-foot access easement over the property. I highlighted it on the aerial. This was put in place by the planning board when the subdivision was approved. It actually gives access to this parcel here, which this parcel is actually supposed to access this easement and go on to Emerson. However, you know, in the midst of this getting built out, they're accessing actually off the road, which is down here. With that being said, the easement exists. So I made a finding in my resolution that it's essentially functioning as the same way a flag strip would function on a flag lot. You know, would be exempt from clearing restrictions, as you know. Someday this could be improved with a driveway to access that lot in the back. So with that, unfortunately for the owner, they did have to revegetate a little bit more because it would be 50% of a smaller area, but he does benefit from a lot of existing tree cover, which was just absent some understory. So he actually drew his own plan, which is going to put low bush blueberry under some existing trees here, here, and here. And then,
I like the dots.
yes. Sorry. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on this one regarding the easement. If I can make anything more clear, it's pretty straightforward though.
Is it possible that that easement could be abandoned if the other property has legal access?
Gloria, they'd have to do that through the Supreme Court. The language in the easement document is pretty restrictive, and it would be an alienation to do it any other way. So they could try and do an RPAPL 1951 action, but not through any function of this board, no.
I didn't think we could do it, but I was just wondering. It seems like if it's unnecessary anymore, so why keep it?
They'd have to bring an action in Supreme, again, under the RPAPL 1951, to basically say that the beneficiary of the easement, which is the town, no longer needs it. It's not serving its useful purpose. And, you know, the town would have to take a position on that, but we don't have anything like that at the moment.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. I've got one similar to that right near me, so it was kind of a personal question too.
Okay, did we do a motion on that?
Yep.
Yes, no. Motion. Motion to approve by Robin, second by Gloria, and all in favor. Opposed, abstentions, 5 in favor, 2 absent. Number 25, Claire.
Yep, Homeland
Homeland Towers, Watermill.
Watermill. So we received an application for this project. I will show you the aerial. This, you had prepared last August a pre-submission conference report. I'm gonna just verify with the attorney. Robert, do you want to just identify yourself?
Yes, thank you. Robert Godioso with the law firm of Snyder & Snyder on behalf of both Homeland Towers and Verizon Wireless.
Okay, so yeah, so this is a property, Ethan Allen in the front, a commercial use in the rear. This is the building. When we originally reviewed it with the pre-submission report, we noticed that somebody was storing a lot of cars on the property. Robert, do you know if that use is off the property?
I know they were planning to make a filing for it, even though I believe outdoor storage was not permitted when the original site plan was approved, but I'm not sure if they've actually made that filing yet or not.
So they're intending to do the 1, 2, 3 use and then the cell tower?
I believe that would require a variance for the 4th use, but
yes,
you know, we did file the application. I'm not sure exactly where they stand with those cars.
Okay, so if we could get maybe an update on that, that might help. On that. So I just want to go, I did put in your packet the original pre-submission report. That was for, on this property in Watermill, 125-foot wireless communication facility, monopole with exterior antennas. Since then, if you look at the description of the project on the agenda, they're proposing 3 alternatives, about approximately 85 feet tall, each of the alternatives. So they have modified their project because in this report we have identified some variances and waivers that would be needed for the project. So they have modified it and submitted the site plan special exception application. This would be obviously bigger project. So I'm just trying to get some feedback from you today. I'm not prepared to do a SECRA review today, but just, you know, talk about the issues for SECRA. So I've put the part 2 in there, get some feedback from you, talk to the applicant about the application in general, and the, you know, any waivers that might be needed on the project. So just wanted to give some background and do it. Here's the location again, the main building, Ethan Allen, the special exception application. If they were to do car storage, where would that go? Obviously, but knowing that you're limited to 3 uses on the property, and this would be a 4th use. It's located on Montauk Highway, of course. And here is like the detail of the project in the rear. And then this is their original proposal. There's the primary proposal with the external antennas with an opportunity to co-locate, as you can see. The approximate height is 85 feet. I can't read that right there, but we can look at it closer if you need to. This is all 4 elevations on that. These are 2 alternatives that they're proposing. One would be a pine tree. The other would be a cypress tree, which is a non-native tree in our area in any case. This is the this is the part 2, which I've started to identify some issues. But before I do that, I'm going to show you what they've submitted in a visual analysis assessment on the property. It was so big I couldn't put it in the package, but I can get it to you individually, before the next meeting so you can take a good look at the project. So these are the pictures that they took. The red means there's no view. There's one orange, number 5, where there was a partial view, and then the green are the views where you could see the actual structure. So those are the maps. Hold on a second. And then this is another version of that map, a little bit closer. You can see the green views. These are the photographs of the views for all of those pictures that were taken. I want to get to a point where you can see the comparisons and the visual assessments on this. So you can see this was a big file. Lots of pictures. And these are the photo sims. So this is the view, Nowadana Avenue at the Watermill Community Club. This is before, they took the picture, and then you can see the structure here with the antennas.
Can you go back?
Yep, I can, definitely. You can see.
But we're supporting stealth towers now with internal co-locators.
Unipoles, correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
and these co-located towers are of another vintage.
The ones with the external antennas. Yeah, you can co-locate in unipoles.
Yeah,
you have the
exactly.
canisters that you would put in.
That's
that
right.
doesn't prohibit you from co-locating.
No, Bridgehampton is an example of that.
Yeah, the elite towers in Bridgehampton. I had mentioned it to the applicant, and I'm going to get him some information on that one.
Does require a taller tower. When you place all of the equipment in the quote-unquote unipole, it would have to be a taller tower, which we can certainly explore. But I think if Claire continues to go through the visuals, you'll see what we did with respect to some of the other stealth options, and including the cypress. While not a native tree, I think when you see the rendering of it, it allows for more co-location. It's still a slim design and a very well designed structure that when you look at some of the photographs that we'll get to in a moment, you'll see with some of the surrounding evergreens, we believe it really does work at that 85-foot level without having to go taller the way a unipole would, and that's what we were trying to offer.
Where is that view from? Because that's clearly obvious.
Yeah,
so
this, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. But I'll describe it. This is, as you can see, Creative Touch Landscaping, which is the property immediately to the east. This is facing, the person probably standing on Montauk Highway looking directly at the structure. So I'm going to just scroll through, but we'll get to the cypress tree if that's acceptable to everybody, just so you can see the whole picture here, right? So this is on Rose Hill Road near Montauk Highway. This is south of the property. And you can see, yeah, you can see it there amongst that, across the farm fields. And again, this is Scuttle Hole Road. And this is, you can see it there. And then this is Deerfield Road, but a far version, if you know, this is like that intersection off of Deerfield Road.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it tiny, tiny right there in the background there. And then, so this is the alternatives that Robert was speaking about. You can see that this is the pine tree in that location. This is the cypress tree.
I've seen these on the road, and they are very poor substitutes for real trees. They stick out more than a cell tower.
Yep. It looks like a bottle cleaner brush.
Yeah.
This is the cypress here, and usually when you see them on the road, they are out of context. Usually they're 125 to 150 feet in height. This proposal is only 85 feet for the tower itself.
So let me ask you a question. There are a lot of cell towers in this area. So there's one in Bridgehampton, there's one in Watermill by the electric company, the gas company, which was an old tower that was redone. So where is there missing coverage here?
So we did submit a very lengthy report from a third-party consultant, PureCon Solutions, we actually performed the crane test here. They not only did propagation maps that you're accustomed to seeing, they actually collected the actual signal data. They also actually collected the capacity data from the surrounding sites. So even though there are surrounding sites, they can't handle the capacity of the systems nowadays for all the usage, folks on Montauk Highway in this commercial area, the surrounding residential areas. I certainly encourage you to look at that report. It's lengthy, it's detailed, it has the propagation maps that you're used to seeing, but it also has the drive test maps, the actual signal data, the capacity data from the surrounding sites. It shows how the drop calls on the surrounding sites are significant, and it shows the area where this proposed site would cover. We also did a multiple height analysis, so we even looked at not only this height, but we looked at lower heights to show where the loss of coverage would be. And as part of this application, we included a letter from AT&T that they also have a need in the area and that they would be willing to co-locate at about 71 feet on this proposed facility. So we can certainly look at that unipole and render it and see what it looks like and study it from a radio frequency standpoint, but certainly take a look at that PureCon solutions report that we submitted, because it does go into detail to answer the specific question you were just asking.
I'll get that to you again. It's a very large document, so but I'll get it to you where you can open it and review it.
I thought there was a cell tower just to the west at the gas station. Mike?
There's actually antennas on a water tank, if that, on a oil tank, if that's what you're referring to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep, and that's about 38 feet in height, and we did a study of that as well, and that's in that PureCon report, and it explains why that site where T-Mobile has a few antennas on the tanks is not feasible, and that's very well detailed in that report as well.
Okay.
So it would be helpful to see a section of County Road, 27, from right before Watermill past Bridgehampton, to see how many towers we now have and what areas they're covering.
So we have that in the report. We have a detail of all of the.
You have a visual? I mean, do you have a schematic of that?
Yes, that's in the report. I believe it's Exhibit T. And then we also have behind Exhibit T in that report a full listing of all the locations with the addresses. So that map is in that report.
Okay, that'd be helpful to see.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to take a quick look at that part 2, just to get some feedback on the environmental issues?
Well, we have a visual. I mean, environmentally, it's a visual situation.
It's a visual situation. It's the character, community character. It's the conformance to the code.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So those are the impacts on that. I had identified maybe archaeological, but they provided an archaeological report. I just haven't taken a look at that yet. So that could be fine. So consistency with community plans, because we have the wireless plan in the code, and the consistency with community character. So those are the things that I've looked at so far. I'm fine if you want to wait for the applicant to come back with some more information, and then I'll provide you that other information in the meantime.
Okay.
That's good for the board.
The only thing I'm concerned about is the 4 uses.
I am too, yes, and that would be
community. Go in there too.
Yeah, no, I want to note that because, because of the car storage being people have been removing it. I didn't know if they'd keep it.
Yeah.
If they're keeping it, that's an issue,
Who do they belong to, Claire? Do we know?
Matt might know. I'm not quite sure if Matt's still on.
Yeah, they're Land Rovers.
Land Rovers.
He's also the car storage person. You just didn't know.
They're all hiding.
Okay. I mean, I'm good. Robert, did you have any other questions for the board at this time?
No, I think what we would like to do is respond to some of those comments in the part 2.
Okay.
As well as get you the answer on that car storage issue.
Okay.
And beyond for the next possible meeting, if that's at all.
Yeah, we'll leave this to June 11th. We have a deadline of June 11th. So if you're prepared to go further than that, you would just need to ask for an extension, and we could act on that, very quickly at that meeting.
So file by June 11th, is that?
Yeah, by June 11th. Of course, like, you know,
Sure.
let me know ahead of time so I can schedule all this.
Okay,
But
thank you.
if you have an you intending it to extension, that's easy. Just send me a letter and
Okay.
we can do that. Okay?
Thank you very much
For all your help.
Thank you.
Okay.
So no action on that. So we're moving on to item number 26. Anthony, that's you, 2331 Montauk.
2331 Montauk Highway. Yep. It's 2331 Montauk Highway. It is the Farrell building, which is being proposed right next to the other Farrell building in Bridgehampton. Let me get my area. Whoops. Oh, I'm stuck. Come on. There we go. Okay. So the vacant, well, it's vacant now. There used to be existing residents on here. This is the existing building with parking. The application here, and I'll show you the map in a second, is proposed second building here, parking here. Access would be existing for Montauk Highway with the site here. Not open.
Anthony, it's a little garbled.
Your
Do you
audio
wanna-
is garbled.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you're in town hall.
Yeah, I'm at town hall.
Now you sound better.
That's better.
Go it again.
Yeah, you can too. Can you hear me?
Keep
speaking.
I'm not hearing anything right now.
Oh, boy.
Let's see. Hold on.
Anthony, do you want to see if you can go up to the meeting room?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Or
Yeah,
Now we can hear you.
loud and clear.
I hear him.
hold on. Sorry. Things were going smoothly. Hold on. Bear with me. Okay.
Just don't hit the big red button.
Yeah, that I won't do. You guys can hear me?
Yep.
Okay. So I showed you the application. The application, that building is going to be a total of 5,700 square feet, roughly 5,000 on the first floor for office space and 600 on the second floor for one apartment. With a total square footage of 5,600 square feet, it would require 3 apartments per the town code. The applicant is proposing 1 and is currently before the ZBA to get relief from that requirement. We have to do the secret review, which is why I put it on the agenda today. And I'd like to go through the part 2 here with the board. The first one is impacts on land. This indicates here the criteria, 15% slopes, excavation of more than 1,000 tons of material. So there's no impacts as it relates to that. On page 2, impacts to geologic features, there's none on the property. Impacts to surface water, there's no surface water in and around the property, so no impacts there. Impacts on groundwater, none to be expected. Impacts on flooding, also none. It's not in the flood zone or in the floodplain, so we don't have to worry about that. No impacts on air, no impacts on plants and animals. The property is devoid of natural vegetation. It's been cleared for years. Impacts on agricultural resources, there are none there. It's not an agricultural area. No impacts on aesthetic resources. No impacts on historical archaeological resources. The existing house has been removed and there's nothing else there. No impacts on open space and recreation. No impacts on critical environmental areas. The property is not in a critical environmental area. Oops, sorry, bear with me. No impacts on transportation. no impacts on energy, no impacts on noise, odor, and light. Hold on, let me go down one. Noise, odor, one. Oh, sorry. No impacts on human health as a result of the project. And on the last page, hold on, back. It says consistency with community plans and consistency with community character. That's where I did indicate we did have, even a small impact. It doesn't meet the requirement of the town code to provide the 3 apartments. So I indicated that here, that it's not consistent with the community plans in that regard. Same thing with community character. The idea is to get a smaller size building and then to provide apartments if you want a larger size building. Then at the end, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can we weigh in on community character?
Sure.
So community character is broader than just the environmental, and I'm glad to see that you've responded to it because it's defined by all man-made and natural features, and most proposed actions result in some community character. But it's interesting that in SECRA, on C, the proposed action may displace affordable or low-income housing in an area where there is a shortage of housing. And when it talks about the impact, and the examining board should consider, if the project does not affect housing or displace affordable housing, check no or small impact. However, if the proposed project will result in a decrease in the number of affordable housing units where the availability of such housing is limited and not expected to meet demand, they require a moderate to large impact. So.
Well, 2 things on that. Number one, I do not believe, and I have to go back and look, Jackie, if they provided the 3 apartments, I do not believe all 3 had to be affordable. I believe that they were able to be market rate, that we would have to have at least 1 affordable. The 1 unit that they're proposing, we have sent to the ZBA stating that we want that unit to be an affordable unit under the, under the town's regulations. Taking that into consideration, moderate to large impact may occur. The question, then becomes is, you're going to require the preparation of an environmental impact statement. And the reality is, I just don't think that that alone in and of itself is enough to warrant the preparation of an environmental impact statement.
I just want the record to reflect the fact that there is an impact on community character.
Sure.
Because of the elimination of affordable housing.
I could add that in there.
I mean, that's what the seeker requires. I'm reading right from seeker. And what is the situation with that HO requires 1 unit? If it goes up to 6,000 square feet, where 3,000 is required, right? 3,000 is permitted.
Yep.
With a unit.
Yep. So you want to go up to 6,000 square feet, you got to provide 1 apartment for each 1,000 over 3,000 square feet.
Right.
So that would be 3 apartments.
So the groundwater situation here is an issue. Is that correct? As it was in their original building.
You talk about flow from the health department?
Yeah.
Well, without getting too crazy with the board, I've looked at the health department board of review. They were before the board of review for this project. Let me simplify it for the board. The health department has given the applicant 450 gallons of sewage flow for the property. I believe there's even a covenant that they have to file for the health department that states that they're, limited to the 450. Then what the health department does is they divvy up flow, that 450, to each of the uses. An apartment up to 600 square feet, so any size up to 600 square feet, requires 150 gallons of flow. If we did 2 apartments there, that would swallow up 300 gallons of the 450, The 150 gallons that are left over would result in a 2,500 square foot commercial space, which turns out to be less than the 3,000 that, you know, the minimum or the maximum that they're entitled to under the code. So the question, you know, then becomes is why would the applicant propose 2 apartments and get less commercial space, you know, out of it? So I think that there is a flow issue with the property in order to, you know, to get a reasonable commercial space and the 2 apartments.
So it's contradictory, though. I mean, you couldn't do it anyway, is what you're saying, really.
It's basically saying that the flow doesn't allow them to develop the property the way they plan to do it.
Right.
No, I mean, I think the flow does allow them to develop it the way they're proposed. I'm just saying, if you were asking, you know, for them to provide another apartment, you know, what the number does to, you know, the commercial space. I'm just laying that out there for you.
But that's the town code. So the town code is saying one thing.
Yes.
The flow is saying that you can't meet the town code. I'm saying there, then you build a smaller building.
That's the contradiction. So, but in this Suffolk County Health Services, it says the applicant is proposing a transfer of density to this project.
Yeah, I'm going to let John speak to that.
Okay. Hey, John.
If I can. Hey, good morning. Good afternoon. I heard someone say something about Hollywood Squares before. And I checked the participants, and I was disappointed to see that Paul Lynn was not one of them.
Oh.
You're dating yourself.
Yeah, I guess I am. You know, they asked Paul Lynn one time, you know, for $250 and Circle Gets the Square, why do the Hells Angels wear black leather? You know what his response was? Because pink chiffon ruffles too easily. Just thought I'd try out my Paul Lynn on you, God rest his soul. So really here, as I said to the Zoning Board of Appeals, if Joe Farrell could do 3 apartments, and by the way, I want to talk about whether 3 or 2 are required, but if he could do 2 or 3 apartments, he would willingly do them and do them affordable. The problem is the health department regulations prohibit it. And as it is, what we did was we went and bought some flow, and are transferring that into the property and willing to make the unit affordable. Let me talk a little bit about where this comes down on a seeker point of view. The commercial space is 4,987 square feet. That's 987 square feet larger than an as-of-right type 2 action. You know, you got to take a look at what type 2 actions really are. I don't know when the last time you scrolled down a list of type 2 actions, some type 1 actions, which are the types of actions that are more likely than not, but not definitely, but more likely than not, to give rise to an impact statement. A zone change affecting 25 acres, 50 units of housing, parking for 500 vehicles. That's a state code. I know the town code has something different. A commercial facility of more than 100,000 square feet. So that's what the state says is more likely to have an environmental impact. You're talking about 987 square feet more of commercial space than would be a type 2 action as a matter of law. Let me talk to you a little bit about the number of units that are necessary. This has come up twice, and the Zoning Board of Appeals has made a determination twice, once on the Farrell building just to the west, which you guys gave site plan approval to, with a 6,000 square foot house, rather commercial space with only 1 unit. And then also the Rick Foster's building in West Hampton. They made the determination that in computing whether or not the number of apartments that are required, you don't include the apartments. So we're just under 5,000 square feet. Our position is, and the Zoning Board of Appeals has agreed with us, that we're not at 3 apartments necessary under the code. We're at 2 apartments because you don't include the apartment. So you know, it's up to the zoning board of appeals. It's up to the building inspector and the zoning board of appeals to determine what the town code says. And in both those prior cases, the zoning board of appeals has said that you don't include the size of the apartment in getting to where you are. So really what we're talking about is relief from 2 units from 1 unit. And I will tell you, and I'll represent you, and I represented this to the zoning board of appeals, and I spoke to Mr. Farrell, and he's always felt the same way. He was happy, would have been happy to do it on the building to the west. If we could put more units in there, according to the health department, we would do it. The problem is, even with transferring in the development right at our expense, as the Board of Review found when they granted the variance for the use, we are we're at 278% of the flow that is allowed under the Article 6 density standards. And then we agreed to mitigate the sanitary to redeem credit, which includes a super offset, since the requested site density is double density based upon the lot area. An apartment unit takes up 150 gallons, 600 square feet. It's a little crazy the way the health department does this. I think it should be looked at. If you're 0 to 600, excuse me. I'm thinking I'm in a car. If you're in 0 to 600, it's 150 gallons that they ascribe to that. If you're between 600 and 1200, I think it's 225. And then once you're over 1200, you're at 300 gallons a day. And what's crazy about that is once you're over 1200, you're at 300 gallons a day, whether your house is 1200 square feet or 15,000 square feet. It's very crazy. And also, frustratingly, the health department doesn't take into account any of the things that the town of Southampton has done. So on the 208 study, I'm really dating myself, they said an acre is enough to handle everything. Well, we went to 5-acre zoning and 3-acre zoning. And every time I go to the board of review, I say, you know, we've done a lot greater in terms of reducing density than your own plan. You say an acre. We say 5 acres and 3 acres. So in our small zones where we can provide for affordable housing, you should take that into account. And they say, well, that's not a proper or a recognized groundwater management plan. And meanwhile, if you look at the whole rationale for the 5-acre, the 3-acre, the 2-acre zoning, it was all based on groundwater, every bit of it. But I've made these arguments till I'm blue in the face. The best I can do here is get one unit. It's similar to the approval that both the Zoning Board of Appeals did and you guys did in the building to the west. You approved the Foster building in West Hampton without any units, and that was over 500. That was 5,500 square feet. We're doing as best as we can. Without a sewer, these things aren't going to happen. This has been the discussion in the village of Southampton and in other places. You're not going to get these apartment units, which is frustrating without some sort of sewer. And I don't have to tell you, what do you have? Greenport, Riverhead, and parts of Greenport, parts of Riverhead, and parts of Sag Harbor. So to make the building smaller just makes no economic sense. I mean, my office that I'm sitting in right now is just a one-use office, and it's probably around 4,000 square feet, maybe a little bit less than that. And it takes up my small law firm once you get staff. So it takes away the economic incentive. We are providing an affordable unit. It's interesting, Jackie, with just in terms of, sometimes I have a little bit of just history on this. There's sections on looking into reducing or decrease in affordable housing. The emphasis is on a decrease. It came out of a case from the Court of Appeals. It's called the Chinese staff workers. What was happening was in Lower Manhattan during one of the high-end building booms, they were displacing a very functional area that provided for for workforce housing, and a group called the Chinese Staff Workers sued, and the Court of Appeals said when you're actually taking affordable units, existing affordable units, even if they're de facto affordable, and even if they're not de jure required affordable units, you have to look at this. Well, actually what we're doing is we're adding a unit. We'd like to be able to add more. I'm sure you would agree with this, but this is where the balance comes out. So I understand your frustration. It's a frustration that the applicant shares. Joe Farrell employs a lot of people, would love to be able to have 2 or 3 units there. We said the same thing at the last time. We sort of tried to twist ourselves into a pretzel the last time we even made the argument, and that the Board of Health just wasn't buying it. So we even had to get a variance to get where we are now. And as Anthony points out, if you drop it below us, then the incentive is gone. So I would just ask you to recognize that we've done the best we can. We share your concern about the lack of a mechanism to create more of these units. We wish it was there.
Good, thank you. Thanks, John. Okay, Anthony, so you're back to SECRA. Do you finish up there?
Yep, I did. And, I was recommending a negative declaration on this project. Even though it does conform to, what's that?
Can I just ask one thing about traffic, just in terms of having things, I don't know if it rises to the level of having to do a full-fledged, but just for factual, we have this building, we have the building next to it, don't we have another one that is going in the—
Well, there's Saunders, has an extension.
Saunders, and are we saying again that on 13A, there's at least not even a small impact?
No, I mean, I've always said to this board, any development, new development, is going to have an impact on traffic, one way or the other. So I don't disagree that there would be even a small impact, and I could change the EAF to reflect that.
If I could add,
it's not going to. I just don't think it's going to rise to the level of a preparation of an environmental impact statement.
Well, I don't think Robin's saying that, but at least acknowledge that there's even a small impact.
We could acknowledge the fact that we are increasing density. We are increasing the amounts of cars. I understand, John, I understand it's not going to raise to the level. But again, as we are affecting a small impact as to community character, it just seems a little bit unrealistic to keep saying that we can keep developing and nothing is having an impact on traffic.
Well, if I may add, one of the things that's nice about these buildings being used together is that it's only going to be one curb cut.
One curb cut. That
helps.
helps.
Coordinate all that parking, and which is great. Anybody else who was going to develop this you'd have 2 curb cuts, and as we know, that's an
important
area.
Okay, that's an important point.
All right, Anthony.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yep. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Sorry for my bad humor.
Oh, this is
a bad joke. Your bad joke.
You've done worse.
Wasted youth watching daytime game shows. I mean,
It'll soon be over, hopefully. Anthony,
I recommend a negative declaration.
Okay, any other discussion on this before we adopt a neg deck on the application?
I think John should be commended for a very erudite discussion.
Right, and for the fact that we've identified a contradiction between the code and the health department.
Yep.
And not meet. So.
I mean, without beating a dead horse, it's sort of crazy that the town of Southampton went to 5-acre zoning, 3-acre zoning, 2-acre zoning, 1.5-acre zoning, all based on groundwater studies, and the health department won't even begin to accept it. So that's why we have the R20 zones. That's why we have some of the R15 zones. That's why we have these incentives, because we've taken care of it. But it's like shouting into the wind.
Yeah, they're back in the 1980s. They're just been so slow to make. look how long it took to get them to look at IA systems.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, it's frustrating.
Frustrating. So do I have a motion to approve, neg deck, and approve this? Robin, motion. Second by Phil. Welcome back, Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? So we are now 6 in favor, 1 absent. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. all.
Anthony, you
Everybody
too.
stay safe.
We have one more.
I'm
item.
back. I'm back with 2 scholarships in the bag.
Really? 2 scholarships for 1 person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey.
But will
You
there
can
be
quit working.
go to?
He got a scholarship for the highest academic average over 4 years, and another scholarship for the highest grades in science, technology, engineering, and math.
Wow.
Congratulations.
I'm quite proud.
He's
Phil.
your son.
That's
I don't know where he gets it from. It's certainly not from me.
Let's keep tapping him for technology tips. Okay, we have one more item, and that's Merjim, and it's a knowledge of a signature.
All good to go, Jackie. I used your stamp. It's the Procorm headquarters in West Hampton that was approved. I believe it was back in January.
Okay.
Jackie,
So, Dennis.
During, I think it's important. I'm glad is Kathleen still with us?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
I'm here, Dennis.
I think it's important when we do votes, if you look at the lower level portion of your screen, and I'm going to use mine now, it says stop video. Okay, I think when we can't really be getting up and, walking over to the other side of the room. We're not sure who's on the vote, and this goes to the heart of judicial. These are proceedings, legal proceedings are going to be recorded. So I think when you click this stop video, like I did, it's going to indicate that you're not present in the meeting.
That's right.
Okay, so I know it came up earlier in a vote, and now if people who are not visually, let's say this might come to Blaney, he might be on audio, so if he's on the box without a video, we can actually, we would need an affirmation from him. John, are you here? Are you voting? And if he can't respond, then
he's absent. Yeah, then he's absent.
But if we have to go to the bathroom or something,
you just stop video.
Right, just hit stop video.
As opposed to raising your hand and asking permission.
Correct. No, it's better than what I'm trying to get away from is walking away from the screen.
Yeah,
you don't know whether you're around the corner or in the bathroom or down the hall.
Well, none of that has happened.
No, I'm just anticipating.
Right. No, I agree because it's an absence. So I want to thank Charles Certain for handling this so well, and for the staff. This has not been easy.
My pleasure.
I think it went off really very well.
Thank you.
The planning board, we've been working through this as well.
And just so you guys know, we're going to be on a partial, apparently, reopening. So we're going to start having some staff members back in the office starting next week.
Wow.
I like my Zoom.
Good luck.
I'm sure we're going to be doing Zoom meetings for a while.
Right.
I mean, we would have to be masked, and we can't hear each other without the masks.
This is not going to stop for a while.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I think you're right.
No. All right, everybody, stay safe, and motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Gloria, second by Phil. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstention. So 6 in favor, 1 absent. We are adjourned.